and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship Season 3, what we all know and love and refer to as the NXTGEN, brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform, available only on PC, known as iRacing, and sponsored by Douglas Motorsport. We make our way further and further into the season calendar, and today marks round 9 of 10. That's right, it is the penultimate round, and we are here in sunny Sears Point in the state of California in the US of A for none other than the Sonoma Raceway. Also previously known as the Infineon Raceway, by its current name, this circuit is a host on a regular basis to Cup car racing as well as touring car class racing. Indeed, if you take a look at the TC America schedule for 2023, you'll note that it kicked off here at the Sonoma Raceway circuit earlier on in March of 2023. But as our drivers take to the circuit for today's races, well, we've got plenty of racing actions to come, and this is a circuit that is like no other when it comes to a change when you're racing a touring car racing class car. You've got 12 corners, you've got a variety of gradient changes, and within those corners you've also got a number of various corner types, multiple hairpins, sweepers, also slams to go with it, and when you pack it all together, it's a punishing combination, which means that every driver, whether they be a rookie or the ultimate pro, will be kept on their toes from lap to lap, as even the smallest of mistakes can prove highly costly and see our drivers end up onto the gravel. Albeit, let's just reassure you that whilst we can see the modelling here in the simulator shows the off-circuit has been mostly gravel and sand, depending on what season you visit the circuit, there is quite a bit of greenery available, particularly when you visit in the springtime, but here we're going to assume it's the summer, and as our drivers get ready to go racing, let's take you for our schedule for today. Times in British Summertime, that's BST, or Universal Coordinated Time +1, UTC +1. When just under 19 minutes time, we're making our way into the qualifying session, 15 minutes in duration, with all our drivers out on the circuit, 35 of them in attendance they expected, and as they make their way on around, there'll be plenty of space available, but the lap being quite extended at just over 1.5 minutes, it means that qualifying laps are going to be in short supply. After that, we'll make our way to the grid for the first of our 3 races today, and that'll be the first sprint race that will kick off at 8:45, and that will be 12 laps in length, as will the other 2, all 3 races are the same length, after which we'll take a brief breather before returning at approximately 9:25 for the build-up to race number 2, and then we'll have another brief breather before returning for the build-up to race number 3, and that'll be at approximately 10:05 this evening. Now, we should point out this broadcast is being brought to you live as a post-round broadcast, and we'll come on to what a post-round broadcast means very shortly. This broadcast is being brought to you live by 3 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, you could be tuning in via one of the 2 official Next Gen Racing media channels, including the YouTube channel, youtube.com, search on Next Gen Racing, and hello to you guys and girls there. Alternatively, on Facebook, if you go to facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing, you could be tuning in there, and hello to you guys and girls tuning via Facebook. Alternatively, we also have a broadcast going on Twitch at the moment at twitch.tv/TX141, and well, hello to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. And who is TX141, I hear you ask? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain as bit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we bring you all your racing action over the course of the season. But we just mentioned a brief moment ago, this is a post-round broadcast. What does that mean? Well, you may note the calendar currently says, if you look at your calendar within your household, alternatively on your phone, this Monday the 26th of June. Well, the race occurs on Tuesdays in the NXTCC, and round 9 occurred actually on Tuesday the 20th of June. However, we weren't able to bring that live via broadcast, so what we're instead doing, we're taking a look at the replay files from the races, and they'll be as close as possible to the real thing as it occurred live. Indeed, this broadcast is going to be catered and try to be as close as possible to the raw live experience. So therefore, the only thing we're going to be missing today will be replays of action. I'm not able to do that due to technical limitations, but otherwise, as your host and commentator, I do not know what happens in any of the race sessions, whether it be in the preceding practice session that's currently underway, the qualifying session, indeed any of the 3 races. It's completely raw and new to me, and therefore it's going to be for you guys and girls tuning in at home. And we do ask that any of you tuning in right now who do know what happens over the course of the races, that you avoid any spoilers in the chats for any of our potential viewers, and of course for me in the commentary booth. But enough nattering about that, let's go on to our season thus far and what we still got lying in wait. And well, we've only got 1 more round after today, and you can see there 2 rounds still to go, but let's take you all the way back to the beginning. We started off on the 18th of April at the Silverstone circuit in the United Kingdom, while drivers taking on the international layout with 54 drivers on the circuit. It was absolutely ram-packed in Northamptonshire, and well, that led to some absolutely brilliant racing. And there's John Higgins Jr., who stood atop of the tower come the end of round number 1. From there, we made our way to Imola on the 25th of April in Italy, and we saw a reversal of fortunes with the success ballast system being deployed for the first time this season. Where John Higgins Jr. fell, others rose to the occasion, particularly Jamie Dorey in the pro class, and we saw a medley of battles in the Pro-Am class, including the likes of Reese Watt and Mikel Leese coming to the top. Then round number 3, we made our way over to Canada for the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park on the 2nd of May, and there we got to see in what we like to refer to as Canadian Thruxton, the batting continued to rise to a crescendo, whereby we saw plenty of batting down the extended straight and also into the sweeping corners. But one thing that stayed fundamentally constant was Jamie Dorey's dominance at the top of the Pro class, and also in the Pro-Am class, the fact we had the rising tide of Mikel Leese and the bad luck played Reese Watt finding no momentum by comparison. Then round number 4, we made our way over to the United States of America for the first time this season to the Long Beach circuit in downtown Long Beach in California, and on the 9th of May there we saw a first for the NXTCC, with the series featuring its first street circuit race, and Long Beach absolutely delivered. There were battles aplenty, but the superstar of Long Beach, Linus Broadstrom in the Pro-Am class, who actually pulled off a blinding set of results, including his first Pro-Am class wins of the season. Then round number 5, we wrapped up the first half of the season on the 16th of May in Germany at the Nürburgring Grand Prix at Sprintstrecke layout, and we got to see there plenty of battles, but one name re-emerged, defending overall champion Mikey Doble from season 2, finally putting wins on the board and getting his championship campaign after a key start going into the mid-season break. Since then, with a week's break, we've seen the series continue with momentum, with round number 6 being hosted on the 30th of May at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, and Mikey Doble being able to hold on despite the rather heavy success ballast applied to his car to hold on to the championship lead, and that's been the running theme over the last couple of rounds in the Pro class, where Mikey Doble has been able to hold on to an advantage. It may not be the biggest advantage, sometimes only spanning 15 points up to a maximum of about 35 points, but the key thing is he's not let go of the lead. But along the way, all the way out to today on the 6th of June, we made our way to the Circuit of the Americas, returned to the USA for the state of Texas, and in Austin, Texas, we got to see there drama in the Pro-Am class in particular, with Alex Meredith putting off some absolutely scintillating results, and Mikel Leese really establishing a key foothold on the championship, albeit Isaac Doble giving close pursuit. Then last time out on the 13th of June, we were at the Sandown Circuit in Australia, and at the home of horsepower and V8 supercars in particular. It may have been short, but it was sweet, the racing, and we got to see plenty of batting up and down the field, and it's ready to set the tone for today at Sonoma. After today, our season finale, which will be brought to you tomorrow live from circuit side on the 27th of June. It'll be at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg circuit, and we'll get to see our drivers there take on the National B layout, and it is going to be a round not to miss as we close out what's been an absolutely fantastic championship for season 3. But going on to our championships then, and let's give you an update of how the points stand after 8 rounds of racing. We begin with the overall championship for our drivers, and Mikey Doble leads the way there by 22 points over Jamie Dorey. But the key thing here is the top 4 are separated by only 33 points, with Andrew Pike being in P3 and Will Chadwick up into P4. It's been interesting to see how Will Chadwick in particular, having joined only in the second half of the season, has been able to use his outright pace early on without success, but has to launch himself up into the top 5. But he's very, very of the fact that he needs perfection in every single round if he wants to have an opportunity to try and steal away the championship crown. Meanwhile, Mikey Doble has been consistent and at the top of the stands for the last 3 rounds, with Jamie Dorey continuing to nip after him and Andrew Pike the same, but Dorey finally moving back into P2 after spending an extended period of time in P3. Outside the top 4, we have Gavin Garner P5 down 194 points, really the best of the rest in the pursuit for the top 4, with an advantage of 23 points over Joseph Doble. There's Adam Doble ahead of Sam Smith, with Andrea Romy and Martin Shirley completing your top 10, and notable there the fact that we have almost 50 points between P9 and P10. Martin Shirley right now having to look in his rearview mirror for the charging tide of drivers who are trying to break their way back into the top 10. Starting with best of the rest outside top 10, John Higgins Jr. 114 points, only ahead of Daniel Holmer based on result countback. Rafael Lobato is P13, Marcello Reyes P14 ahead of Alan McCain, and then Josh Millington at P16, and the Sim Racing Collective driver pulling off his best results of the season last time out, and Dale Mulqueen at P17, keeping him honest, only 4 points between the two of them. We then have your leading Pro-Am driver of Mikel Leese, P18, as it is in the overall category. He's on equal points to Mulqueen, but behind based on result countback, with Marco Benatelli and Wayne Douglas completing your top 20. And from the 77 points of Wayne Douglas, we see 65 there for Reese Watt ahead of Matthew Cheverton, who's moved into P22 and trying to get into the top 20 by the end of the season, with Cheverton really being the driver who is storming to a force in the Pro-Am class after those wins at Brands Hatch. He's picking up further podiums ever still in the Pro-Am class, and Alex Meredith only a further 4 points behind, and Andrea Talasco also in the hot pursuit. Neil Ferret in P25, based on the result count back behind Telasco, with Isaac Doble, James Holman, Dario Raffaetta, Benjamin McCluskey and Lee Horn completing your top 30. And then we have Linus Broadstrom P31 ahead of Matthew Addy, with Moen Eckerson P20 at 1 point clear of Paul Scott, and then Luke Jones completing your top 35. It's Nick Clemens P36 on 14 points, 1 clear of Mark Sykes, with Daniel Fadder, Robert DeSunic and James Manscascal completing your top 40. And then looking outside the top 40, it's Palamaniti, the last driver to have a point in the overall championship in P41, a single point to his name, with Gabriel Yilmaz, Ian Manners, Jackie Chalmers, Jake Peart, Jonathan Collins, Josh Brown, Matthew Jolly, Michael Kurtler, Phil McDougall, all yet to score overall points, and on minus points due to post-round penalties, Dylan Flanagan, Philip Bruberg, Chris Byram, Daniel Fritz, Marcello Felix, Philip Garside, and Costa Chatscontinentino. As we then come on to the Prime classification specifically, because of course we do have the Prime Championship that runs in parallel to the overall championship to give our Prime drivers something to aim for and a trophy of their own. Mikel Leese leads the way there on 316 points to Isaac Doble's 268. The gap is now 48 points, and the tone is being set with the fact that Mikel Leese is able to stay one step ahead of Isaac Doble from round to round. Now Leese cannot wrap up the championship today, given the fact we have drop scores to be applied going into the season finale, and the final round of the season is undroppable. But what we can tell you is that Mikel Leese right now, if he's able to pull off a strong string of results today, he can make it extremely difficult and essentially require Isaac Doble to benefit from lady luck as well as perfection in order to try and steal the championship away from him. So therefore, for Lee's destiny seems to be in his hands. And Matthew Sheraton in P3, meanwhile, continues to hold on to the right for P3, albeit 12 points between him and Alex Meredith, and Meredith continuing the charge after the great performances we saw last time out. We swap P5 there on 201 points, chasing after Meredith with a 15-point gap. And it's Lee Horn at P6 on 196 points, 5 clear of Paul Scott. With Matthew Addy, your defending champion in P8, and really struggling to put together a strong set of results, albeit we have seen in the last 2 rounds that luck is starting to come his way, albeit it has been a championship defence that has been rifled with what is essentially mistakes and weaknesses left, right and centre, and not necessarily all down to his own fault. Benjamin McCluskey P9, with 3 points clear Linus Broadstrom in P10, with Luke Jones best rest in P11, with the JW Motorsport driver ahead of Nick Clibbins, and then Mark Sykes, Andrea Telasco and Darren Effer to complete your top 15. Moen Eckerson P16, 2 points clear of Phil McDougall, with Palamaniti, Jonathan Collins and Jake Pitt completing your top 20. And outside the top 20 for our Prime drivers is James Manscascal on 45 points, 9 clear of Daniel Fritz, with Daniel Fadder P23 on 34 points, and Ivan Borkamp on around 30 there in P24. Ian Manners completes the top 25 on 25 points, appropriate of course, with Chris Byram P26 and Matthew Jolly, then Marcello Felix, Michael Kurtler and Josh Brown completing your top 30, with Gabriel Yilmaz on 1 point there P31, and on negative points due to post-round penalties, Philip Bruberg, Dylan Flanagan, Philip Garside and Costa Chatscontinentino. But then we come on to the Teams Championship, and here we can see the complexion. We do have Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport leading the way on 521 points to Double Sim Racing's 439. Double Sim Racing having the worst luck comparison to their rivals in the battle last time out at the Sandown circuit, but you can imagine where there's a will, there's a way for the Doble family, and they'll be looking to close up their gap as soon as possible. But will they need to turn their attentions behind them instead, with the Sim Racing Collective only a further 12 points behind, and with Pike, Higgins Jr. and Millington all on the charge, you can imagine the TRC crew are thinking now there's an opportunity to become runner-ups in the championship. iRacing Sports in P4 on 281 points. They're looking to hold on to the spot that's the best of the rest outside of the podium positions, with an advantage they're extending to what is 33 points over GRT Esport. And then Meredith Motorsport not too far behind P6, with Alex Meredith leading the way, and the VRGT Racing Team's combination of drives down 215 points, and Autos Esports and Next Gen Racing Yellow and Bright Esport complete your top 10. Outside the top 10, we go to 115 points in the favour of MRD Sim Sports, with Sergi Fortis Racing P12 ahead of Aztec Racing. Next JW Motorsport, Next Gen Racing Blue and Kuda E Motorsports to complete your teams with Teams Championship points, and yet score points, Performance Link Esports, Chalmers with Flanagan Racing and Biff Hornet and Epic Collective. But then we come from our championship standings to our circuit for today, and it's none other than the Sonoma Raceway Cup layout. And as we can see, located in Sears Point in the region of Sonoma in the state of California in the US of A, this circuit, as we can see from the circuit map provided us by iRacing.com, thank you to them for their wonderful simulator and the circuit maps that come with it, is a circuit that looks rather complex from the outside. And well, a two-dimensional track map doesn't quite explain how complex this circuit is, because we have 12 corners of wide varieties we mentioned earlier, but we also have a number of major grade gradient and elevation changes over the entirety of the lap. And when you put that all together, that makes this one of the trickiest circuits on the calendar, and perhaps one of the hardest that we've seen the NXTCC go to so far in its history. As our drivers make their way across the start-finish line and uphill through turns 1 and 2, they'll find their way gently rising through 1, but then suddenly it's a major elevation rising to a blind right-hand apex of turn number 2. From there, the rising's not complete as they make their way into turns 3 and 3A, when there's a small dip into turn 3, which rises from left into a right-hander into 3A, and then it's all about making sure not to clip the apex curve too hard, as otherwise you'll be launched into the gravel on the outside. But get it right, however, and you'll carry all the speed down towards turn number 4, a downhill braking zone followed up by a sharp right-hand apex as they make their way through 4 and onwards towards turns 5 and 6. Flat out through turn number 5, our drivers will get themselves set for braking over a rise and down into the long left-hander of turn number 6, a bit of a carousel corner if you will, and it's all about managing the balance of understeer versus power deployment as you make your way out of turn 6 onto the drag strip and charge your way up towards turn 7. The double right-hand apex hairpin there at turn number 7, there's plenty of runoff area to be played with, and we expect some of the closest battles there into this key corner. But as our drivers make their way now, extend the run through the sweepers of turns 8, 8A and 9 into 10, where it's all about building up speed through turns 8 through to 9, and then taking the speed away from the car through turn number 10. But you've got to be bold and brave if you want to carry as much speed as possible and lap time with it going through 10 and up towards the hairpin at turn number 11. Again, another key corner, turn number 11, a hairpin we can expect to see plenty of batting under braking, and therefore our drivers, it's a tight apex in the sliced corner on the circuit, and with concrete walls on the outside as they exit, there's no runoff area available, as it is essentially a wall that separates the circuit from the pit lane, and therefore we may see some drivers make contact with the wall, and that could prove critical. But as they come out of the penultimate corner, they'll make their way through the King of 12 to complete the lap and do it all over again, but indeed, it's going to be a tricky circuit to overtake at, and it's all about following close and batting into the hairpins. But before we go racing, of course, we do need some rules, and let's give you a reminder of those rules. Firstly, this is a fixed setup series where drivers take a specified setup as provided by NXTGEN Racing to each and every round. Driver classes will finalise as of round number 3, and if we do see any new drivers, and you will see a new driver today in the form of Kieran Sharp, they'll be automatically assigned to the Pro class and then adjusted down to the Prime class if required as an emergency. And sprint race-wise, the Race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying, that's a given. The Race 2 grid shall be set based on results of race number 1, so the winner of Race 1 starts on pole for Race 2, and we work away down the finishing positions. And then the Race 3 grid shall be a reverse grid based on the results of Race 2, with the reversal position being drawn live from between P13 and P23. Now some of you may be asking, well, how exactly was this done if the broadcast was not done live, because we normally cut to the commentary booth to do the lottery bowl draw. Well, the lottery bowl draw instead was done by a member of the administration team as the Race 3 lobby was being set up, and I do know the number that was picked out, albeit I'm not going to reveal it until we do make our way into race number 3. Now, each driver shall have one fast repair available in each race, and each race shall conclude after either the allotted lap amount of 12 laps or 30 minutes, and we are expecting the 12 laps to expire first. They equate to approximately 20 minutes of racing. Race stewarding-wise, an independent race director shall be stewarding the races for track limit infringements and deployment of the safety car, and penalties for track limit infringements shall be as follows. The first through to third warnings, there's no penalty at all, you just get a slap on the wrist. The fourth warning, it's a 5-second post-race time penalty, it's doubled to a 10-second if you pick up a fifth warning, and on the sixth warning you get a drive-through penalty for your misdemeanours. Drive-through penalties must be served within 3 laps, and racing incidents shall be reviewed at post-round. And lastly, we do have the success ballot system in place, and it's been applied to the top 10 drivers in the overall Drivers' Championship based on the stands prior to each round. This was before post-round penalties are applied, and the success ballot shall be applied as follows for this round. And the key things to watch out for, Mikey Doble once again taking the maximum 56.1 kilograms into this round, and we do expect that to be very punishing to the Elantra around here at Sonoma, for the simple reason this is a circuit where you do have a number of extended acceleration zones and top speed will be found in. Also, it will serve to wear those rear tyres down on the car quite significantly. On top of that as well, we can also see Will Chadwick now up to the 4th place ballast of 28.5 kilograms. So again, the Honda Civic Type R will feel that on the straights, but perhaps a little bit less so in the corners, albeit under heavy braking. It may cause the car to want to understeer forward to an extent, and we can see taking a little bit less success ballast compared to his previous round there, Adam Delman on 16.6 kilograms in 7th place, but definitely it's going to be success ballast. It's going to hamper a number of drives, we reckon. But let's make our way from the rules back to our live pictures here, ladies and gentlemen, and as our drivers get themselves set, well, we do see Mikey Doble right now making his way on around there, and will P16 at the moment in this final practice warm-up session, and it definitely does look as though he may be feeling the impact of the success ballast. But then again, we have sometimes seen that he's come alive in the qualifying session and also in the first race of the day, so we're not going to judge too much because practice times are only an indicator, they're not necessarily going to reveal the entire true story. But meanwhile, the name that's at the top of the timings at the moment is Will Chadwick, as we do see the Altus Esports driver there parked up in the number 192 Honda Civic Type R, and well, he'll be looking to try and go for perfection once again today to try and pull things off to what is an opportunity to take the championship crown in the season finale. As we say hello to a good number of you in the YouTube and Twitch chat in particular, and also in the Facebook chat, including Alex Meredith. We also do say hello there to what is Costa, and good evening to you both. And in the Twitch chat, we do say hello to VX02 and also to GZen High, and GZen High in particular saying, yo, this track will be crazy for TCRs. Indeed, it's an absolutely fantastic track for touring car racing. I can definitely tell you that. Having had the pleasure of watching TC America earlier this year, and it's absolutely spellbinding, I must say, when they're racing around here, and we've got plenty more to come. But speaking of things to come, we're about to go into qualifying, but given the fact we are looking at a replay file, we are going to have to step away briefly, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in less than 30 seconds to kick off qualifying, and we'll explain why we have to step away very shortly. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss it. And as we immediately return, ladies and gents, we do apologise having to step away as qualifying gets underway and everyone piles their way out onto the circuit. And just to give you the reason as to why we do have to briefly step away, one of the technical limitations from an iRacing replay file is that sometimes we will see the times out on the left-hand side when we go into qualifying show the final qualifying times from said qualifying section. And we don't want to see who's on pole before the qualifying just got underway, so therefore we just stepped away to deploy in a little safety measure to make sure that none of that data is revealed to us, including myself in the commentary booth, and that way we get it all as if it were live. But as our drivers make the way out here, what can we expect from qualifying? What is going to be the target? Well, the change about this circuit in particular is you don't really want to be in the dirty yet of another car unless it's towards the end of the lap, but even then you have not really got an extended straight. And when I say a straight here, I'm talking about a straight piece of road that's not bucking and bending or curving on around. We're talking about just a standard straight line, and indeed very limited straight lines on this circuit. It's all about curves and corners, and therefore when you're in that dirty area, it is going to cause the car to want to understeer even more so, and that will be punishing to you as a driver, and it could compromise your lap time. But towards the end of the lap, you may want to try and pick up a bit of a distant toe, making your way out turn number 7 all the way out towards the final hairpin of turn number 11, as we did see Alina Sporlstrom. They're going a little bit deep into turn 7, but we are expecting the best lap times to come from clean air for the majority of the lap, and those who dare may find a bit more time by running much closer to their rivals, but that is going to be a gamble and a half. As we do see Gavin Garner making his way down through turn number 4. In terms of the cars and how we're expecting them to perform, because we do have 4 machines available to our drivers. We have the Hyundai Elantra, and we also have from Hyundai the Veloster as well. We also do have the Honda Civic Type R, and we have the Audi RS3 LMS. As we can see here, Gavin Garner making his way around in aforementioned Audi. We are expecting the Hondas and the Elantras to be very strong around here. The Elantra being the one-lap pace car we've seen all season, and the Honda being more of the race car that works very well with regards to tyre degradation and also braking approach and lower speed corners. The Audi, by comparison, more of a power car, and also a car that does very well when the circuit's more geared towards high speed corners, and therefore the Audi may be a little bit down by comparison. Meanwhile, the Veloster being the jack of all trades, master of none, and we'll have to wait and see how the Velosters get on, although we're expecting them to be fighting up inside the top 10. And here's Matthew Addy in the Veloster as he makes his way through turn number 2. Going for the extended rise, and as he makes way out the right-hander at turn number 2 and he into turn number 3 here. Well, with Matthew Addy, it really has been a season of struggles, particularly the first half of the season. But he has been finding his feet in this championship defence in the second half of the season, albeit he is almost at the point now where defending the title is actually out of reach for him in terms of the mathematics involved to take it where he is currently in the championship versus Mikel Leese, the championship leader. But I think Addy won't be too complacent about that. Instead, what he's going to be thinking about is just taking one race at a time and trying to get those wins on the board and focus on building up a new campaign for Season 4, and more details on Season 4 come the end of the season finale broadcast tomorrow evening. But as we do see Addy making his way all the way out towards turn number 7. A little bit of trivia for you here, the circuit does run over a drag strip. You will see that drag strip time and time again. In fact, you see Addy cutting his way across the latter half of the drag strip there over the course of turn at number 7. And therefore the Sonoma Raceway is able to be used for a multitude of racing style events, whether it be racing around the road racing circuit, of which there are 3 major layouts, and we're running on the cup layout, perhaps the most notable one. Alternatively, you do have drag racing days. You can see the drag strip there briefly in the background of the camera, and a good portion of the circuit is tailored around the drag strip, if you will. We are starting to see some times on the board, including a time from a newcomer to this series, and that is Kieran Sharp in the Sim Racing Collective Pro Class machine as he heads up the hill there in the Honda Civic Type R. And rolling his way on through the corners there. Will Sharp right now just trying to keep his composure and looking the fastest driver of them all so far on a 40.981. But to be fair, reading into that lap time this early would be a little bit of a mistake on our part, as we do see their teammate Andrew Pike going even faster at 40.953. And we are expecting the pole times around here to be around the mid-40s. Our drivers will be pushing down there. They've got a lot of fuel in the cars at the moment, so therefore they will be burning that fuel out and trying to get the tyres up to further temperature. It does take a couple of laps to really get those front tyres into the zone, and the rear tyres even more so, given the fact that these front engine front wheel drive machines are all focused about the front tyre wear in the front tyres, I should say, and they are worn the most, given the fact they do have to do all the turning motion. On top of that, also the power deployment. The rear tyres getting much easier by comparison compared to the front brethren, but as we do see Pike making his way down and through, Mikey Doble, they're getting quite a bit wrong, as we did see him just gliding his way out to turn number 6. I think still trying to find a bit more temperature there to get the car to grip up on approach to the turn 6 apex, but such a tricky corner, the turn 6 extended sweep, or the carousel if you will, and we'll very shortly be right on board with one of our drivers to give you an on-board reference lap of Sonoma, as we do see Doble making his way out of 7 and almost towards the remainder of the lap. As he comes charging on through, we do look to Alex Meredith, and in towards turn number 12, onto the brakes he goes here, currently in what is P6 in the Pro class, and as he rolls his way on through, we jump aboard with Alex Meredith for a flying lap of the Sonoma Raceway Cup circuit. He's making his way up towards the start finish line here, keeping the car over to the right side for turn number 1, and turns it in nice and tight to the inside wall, balancing the throttle here as he makes his way up the hill towards turn number 2, and onto the brakes now for the extended uphill trail braking all the way down the 3rd gear, mounts the apex curve and gets back on the power. Nice run there. We're going down into the dip, braking early here for turn number 3. We'll get a nice light apex as he comes through and into 3A. Just connect the dots together between the two apexes, but don't attack them too savagely, and onto the brakes for downhill braking zone of 4. Exiting out here, 2nd gear. It's all about using the exit whip there to build up as much speed as he comes flat out through turn number 5. And you'll notice he'll very quickly bring the car over to the right side of turn number 6. Blind rise and onto the brakes as he descends down into the long left hand. It goes on and on and on, and finally he can see his acceleration marker and get back on the throttle as he powers out there. Plenty of whip to be able to be used, but as he makes way out turn 6 is now up towards the hairpin of 7. And onto the brakes here, braking as late as possible. There's multiple lines available here. You can go quite deep to get it right, but as he connects both apexes together, 1st gear there, as he exits out up to 2nd gear, up to 3rd he goes, and that's going to be as close as possible to a flat out run all the way through turns 8 and 8A. A bit of a lift there through 8 into 8A as he balances the car, as he comes on through now into turn number 9, gets the car nice and tight to the apex, turns it in as he comes on into the right hander of 10. Now it's about bringing it down the speed and down a gear into 4 as he exits 106 miles an hour and heads up towards turn number 11. Braking there using the pit entry as a potential marker as he comes down to 1st gear, slice corner on the circuit, but as soon as you get the car pointed on exit, squirt the throttle and run with it as he heads up towards the timeline via the Kinker 12, turning on through nice and tight to the inside wall there, and now getting himself set up here, and that is a lap of the Sonoma Raceway Cup circuit, as brought to you by Alex Meredith. But as he makes his way on uphill there, beautiful camera angle, which goes to show the severity of the gradual rise from the start finish line up towards turn number 2. But indeed it was a lap to be remembered there, and now in P6, just behind Mikel Leese by what is 400ths of a second, as meanwhile Andrew Pike goes at provisional pole sitter overall our pro trial on a 40.280. So in fact we might need to revise that estimate to low 40s for the pole lap round here, but we've still got half the qualifying session to go, and as we do look to Will Chadwick, right now Chadwick currently P7 at 3/10 off of the pole time on what is a 40.61. I do wonder where Chadwick may be thinking here that pole position might be an uphill battle that he's not going to be able to fully complete, or if he has, he's got a little bit of an ace up his sleeve. We'll have to wait and see it. As he comes up through the hairpin of 7 behind him, Linus Brostrom hugging the rear of the car, but a name that's not been on pole in the Prime class for some time. We see him at a distance there, Andrea Talasco, as we do see the Audi RS3 from VR GT gleaming bright in gold, making its way out towards turn number 7 right now, and Talasco definitely, I think, feeling comfortable at the circuit here today, and I think I'm being made to mark my words about the Audi struggling around here. We've got Romy in P3 overall, we've got Garner P9 over and Talasco P12 overall, and with that pro and pole sitter provisionally at the moment, and well, if Talasco is able to pull this off, this is going to be a surprise for the books, that's to be certain, as he makes his way on through turn number 9 and up towards 10, but meanwhile, in terms of the major contenders in the Pro Championship between Mikel Leese and Isaac Doble. Well, Mikel Leese at the moment is down in what's P24, Isaac Doble P28. So neither one of them are able to find the time they want as Leese moves up to P22 as soon as I say that. But as Velasco makes the way out the final corner, what's it going to be this time for the VRGT driver heading out towards the timeline? And sweeping on out there with full fury on the throttle. And as he heads to the timeline, it's going to be no improvement. But meanwhile, speaking of improvement, Lee Horn has just found his way up into P17 at 40.964. And it's a nice lap there from the Honda Civic Type R driver from NXTGEN Racing as he now gradually makes way towards turn number 3. I think the confidence is building there for Horn in number 36 Honda. And we have seen over the second half of the season, he's really risen to prominence in terms of the pace he's bringing to the table. As he comes down into turn number 4, we do see that in the YouTube chat. Costa Transcontinental letting us know that he's not able to race tomorrow night in the season finale due to rig issues, and that's very unfortunate, Costa. I'm sorry to hear that, but I do hope you're able to get those rig issues repaired for season. And folks, we'd love to see you back on the grid. It's not quite the same without you there, and indeed all the drivers here participating in this season, we'd love to see it come on back, as we do see there Lee Horn just pulling aside and letting a number of drivers through, including Isaac Doble. In fact, it was Josie Doble he let through, as Isaac is a bit further up the road, making his way on through turns 8 and 8A right now. But as he comes on down there through the sweeping section, 5 minutes still on the clock here, and we see Jamie Dorey taking a bit of a liberal escape road, and that's going to be an invalidated lap as a result. One thing we should point out here, ladies and gentlemen, is that we may see some of the lap times set by drivers not appear on the grid. We may see some of those grid positions change. Unfortunately, again, we cannot see due to limitations of replay file whether the laps on that time tower are valid or not, so we're going to assume that all laps are valid until confirmed otherwise on the grid wall, but we'll let you know about that in due course. But as we do see our drivers making their way towards the end of this qualifying session, one thing we should let you know about is a lap from one of our pro drivers, and we're going to jump on board with Andrew Pike here in the Honda Civic Type R as he makes his way onto a flying lap, and he's current provisional overall pole sitter. Making his way into turn number 1, and we'll see a different story in the Honda here, being much more aggressive on the brakes. He makes his way out towards turn number 2, braking very early there on the initial kink, but as he comes through the apex, absolutely mounts the apex in full force as he heads in towards turn number 3, down into drop, and up here he goes, lifting off the throttle then, dropping a gear, using the downshift to retard the car as he comes out to the right hand of 3A and onto the brakes for turn number 4. And you can see here, Pike really feeling the car's in the zone, braking nice and late, getting the nose to pitch in as he comes through 5 and out towards 6, and this is where he's in his element right now, as the Honda will be able to brake really nice and late into 6, gets a nice late approach as he comes down for a left-hander. It never ends, and he finally finds the end of it and gets back on the throttle, uses all the exit width there, exit curve as well. This is looking to be a nice lap for Pike so far as he makes his way up towards turn number 7, getting ready to go back onto the brakes once more, and he does so there, brakes very late, but he gets it stopped just in time down to first gear, and how he got that stop we'll never know. I think he might have been using the downshifts there to help use some engine braking as he now makes his way onto the latter half of the lap. Through 8 he goes, bit of an aggressive approach there to the 8 curve, and as he comes through 8A, I think he manages to compromise his run there now, and I think he's feeling it already as he comes through 9, upshifts in the 5th, and into turn number 10 he goes. When he drops a gear, he does indeed help bring the car into the apex and exits out. Now towards turn at number 11, onto the brakes of the penultimate corner. I think this will have to be a setup lap for the next one. He's not got many more laps to go, but to be fair, the chase is for the drivers behind him to try and outdo him to pole position as Pike makes his way out towards the timeline. And what's it going to be this time around? As he makes his way on through, it was a nice lap, a very aggressive lap from Pike. He's not able to improve there. 2 tenths down on his previous best of 40.278. That's a 40.455. But you can see the mistake he made there at turn 8 in particular. Just took too much curb, and that unsettled his line. I think even in his head he said, right, this lap is over. I need to look at the next one. But Marcello Reales, meanwhile, P2 also in the Honda, and we've got a top 4 Hondas. The front 2 rows will be locked out by the Japanese manufacturer at the moment as we see Reales heading to the timeline. Andrea Romy improves to 40.452, but it's not enough to move from P5. The next manufacturer being the Audi there, German manufacturer, taking a good run onto the 3rd row of the grid, and Wayne Douglas also a Veloster there, so we do have a bit of variety on the front 3 rows. But meanwhile, Telasco continues to rise in the Pro class here. Currently P7 overall with next Pro driver Mikel Leese P14. So Telasco really putting a lot of time a day between himself and his rivals here, and was the number 39 driver breaks their way down through turn number 7. I think for Telasco, if he can get this right, it is going to be an absolutely wonderful and comfortable feeling as he makes his way on towards the latter half of lap. 1.5 minutes still on the board, so our drivers are not on their final laps. They will be very soon. Meanwhile, championship leader overall Mikey Doble P11, not quite inside the top 10 at this time, separating from Gavin Garner by only, what is there, 11 thousandths if that, and therefore the Atlanta driver, I think, will be feeling that as though he's not too far out of reach of his contemporaries and his championship rivals, but he'll want to be inside the top 10, because the further you are down the order, the more likely you're going to have to battle and scrap your way between yourself and other drivers to get yourself into the top 10. Doble goes a bit wide there, that'll be an invalidated lap, and he'll have one more chance, as he takes one of the cones there, under braking for good measure, and Ryan on out to the right hand here of 11 on towards 12, as Isaac Doble does improve to a 141.423. P28 still. Isaac Doble really struggling there. He's the second place driver in the Prime class off camera at the moment. And meanwhile, what is happening with our Prime Championship leader, Mikel Leese? Well, you can see him here. He's currently P14 overall. So he's not going to be Prime pole given to Lasco's pace, but I think he'll be pleased enough with this in the fact that his championship rival is all the way down P29 now. McCain improved to P28 on a 41.333. Where it is looking as though Leese has got the cards in his hands, but qualifying is just one part of the race day. The races are where all the points will be scored, as Matthew Addy's just left the pit lane. Well, I think he's decided enough's enough in terms of just sitting around and waiting to see what happens, but at the same time he won't be able to get another lap in as Daniel Holmer jumps up to P5 there in the Bright Esports Audi RS3, the flying Swedish machine, getting the job done nicely. Putting on the third row of the grid, he's got one more lap to go. Other laps to come on in include a lap from Martin Shirley, as the RD Simsport machine makes its way down the back half of the field as he heads up for turn number 10. The checker flag is out in this qualifying session, so the laps that come in now will be the final ones we are going to see here. And Shirley comes into the pit lane. Car almost in the wall. That's Linus Broström almost getting it wrong and just missing the wall by a hair's width. And with the Polski Logistics machine, definitely will be feeling that near miss. There's no question about it. But meanwhile, Mikel Leese coming on through to complete. So he's got Chadwick behind him trying to siphon a bit of a slipstream tow. And as they make their way across the line, does Leese improve further? He does not, no, neither does Chadwick. Both of them stay where they are. Meanwhile, further on down, we've got Alex Meredith heading towards the time line. He crosses the line, he goes P26 on a 41.149. I think Meredith had been hoping he could have got into the 40s today. Not quite there on pace versus Cheverton or Addy. Down by 10 from them effectively in the battle for what is top 10 spots of the Prime class. More drives still to come on through it, including Alan McCain. He's in fact going to be one of the last drivers to come on around here. But we have got a bit of a gap to the next driver as McCain just missing the wall by a hair's width. As he heads out of the corner, well, Sam Swift does not improve. He's just crossed the time lane. He stays P16. McCain's P28 at the moment. He stays P28 there as he crosses the line. Daniel Holmer's headed on around. He will be, I think, the last driver to put in the qualifying lap. Luke Jones in front of him. Jones is P27. Holmer right now is improving quite significantly. Can he make it onto the second row of the grid? No, he cannot. So Holmer stays P5 at best. Meanwhile, we've got Jamie Dorey heading towards the timing line. I think, in fact, Dorey's going to be coming into the pit lane, given the relative lap delta. Indeed he does, so that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. And well, as far as we are aware, it's going to be Andrew Pike on pole position overall, and in the Pro class with Marcello Reyes alongside him on the front row. Meanwhile in the Prime class it's P9 overall, but pole position class for Andrea Talasco, with Mikel Leese starting next behind it in P15 overall at P2 in the Prime class. But an interesting qualifying session. We have seen some names we have not seen up there for a while. John Higgins Jr. as well, sneaking into the top 3 there on what is a very good lap of 40.32, just outpacing at Delmont by 4 thousandths in the end. It's been very close to pole, and as all of our drivers make their way back to the pit lane, well, now who's going to be able to prove they've got the pace to win? We will find out very shortly, as we do just wait for the transition to our first race of the day. But as we do continue to wait here, well, in fact, we do get the transition out. It's a very hot day. We'll talk more about the temperature shortly. But firstly, this is how they line up for our first race of the day, the Race 1 grid. Andrew Pike takes pole position for the Sim Racing Collective, joined on the front row of the grid by Marcello Reyes of VRGT Racing Team. John Higgins Jr. for the Sim Racing Collective lines up on the second row, joined by Adam Delmont for Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport. Then we have behind them the pair of Daniel Holmer for Bright Esports and William Chadwick for Altus Esports. Then in P7 on the fourth row of the grid, it's Wayne Douglas for Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport, joined by GRT Esports Andrea Rummy, with the top 10 being rounded off by Kieran Sharp for the Sim Racing Collective on his debut, and Gavin Garner for Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport P10. Mikey Doble starts P11 on the 6th row of the grid, just outside the top 10, but he won't be complaining too much about that, with the double sim racing driver being joined by Martin Shirley P12, and then behind them on the 7th row of the grid, it's Andrea Talasco, who takes pole position in the Prime class of VRGT Racing Team, joined by Josh Millington of the Sim Racing Collective. Behind Velasco in a line on the grid, on the 8th row it's Mikel Leese for NXTGEN Racing Yellow, his prime rival, and Sam Smith for iRacing Esports, with Nick Clemens starting P17 for iRacing Esports, joined by Joseph Doble for Double Sim Racing on the 9th row of the grid. Top 20 is completed by Marco Benatelli and Jamie Dorey, the GRT Esports driver, out qualifying NXTGEN Racing with Douglas Motorsports driver. And then Linus Broström starts P21 for Pike Esports in a good qualifying session for the Swede, who we've not seen have much favour over the last couple of rounds. Lee Horn for NXTGEN Racing Yellow joins him on the 11th row at P22. With Reese Watt for JW Motorsport and Matthew Addy for NXTGEN Racing Yellow on the 12th row of the grid. And then behind them, it is the pair of Matthew Sheraton for Aztec Racing and Meredith Motorsports' Alex Meredith, followed up by Luke Jones for JW Motorsport and Alan McCain for iRacing Esports. And then Isaac Doble for Double Sim Racing and Ian Maz for JW Motorsport complete your top 30. On the 16th row of the grid, it's Paolo Maniti for GRT Esports and Mark Sykes for NXTGEN Racing Blue, with Paul Scott and Jonathan Collins on the 17th row of the grid, and Costa Chatscontinental starting last but not least, P35 out of our 35 qualifiers. But the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen, and we now wait to go racing. But as we do, everybody absolutely itching to go. And while the Sim Racing Collective's Andrew Pike starting on pole for the first time this season after qualifying, we await the lights. It's lights out and away we go for the first race of the day. 12 laps in anger. Here it comes as we see Pike lead the field up the hill towards turn number 2. And as they all come through here, it's difficult to go side by side through the Kings. But you see immediately Relis trying to go round the outside. There's contact between him and Pike as they make them on cold brakes on through. I think everyone now settling down. But look at John Higgins Jr. squeezing up the inside. And Junior's in to lead as people have got a car off there. And I believe that may be Reese Watt, who's taking a little bit of a moment off circuit as they make the way on up the hill. We'll have to wait and see who exactly comes out on top as well. But Pike is falling down the order right now. Will Chadwick gets around the outside there, 3A onto the brakes they go, and as they all come through the right-hander, down they drop, and you can see on the inside, that's Daniel Holmer versus Sandro Romy. It's the battle of the Audis here. Both drivers feel as though they've got the advantage, but who is going to have that advantage as they make their way into turn number 6? It will be Holmer, and then it gets down to braking. There's contact between Sharp and Romy, but they both catch the cars just in time, and as they make their way down through 6 and up towards turn number 7, Mikey Doble trying to make more progress now as they head up towards the hairpin, but as they do, you can see plenty of drivers behind, all stacking together, including here Andrea Talasco is under pressure from Martin Shirley. Shirley looking around the outside with Nick Clemens in pursuit. Mikel Leese had a very difficult stage, dropped down to P24. So right now Talasco, I think, will be feeling as they can breathe a sigh of relief, and Nick Clemens is P2 in the brown class just behind him. Will be absolutely pleased as bunch with that. But meanwhile, Joseph Doble and Marco Benatelli side by side as they make the way on down through the S sequence here, through the sweepers at 8 and 8A, but Joseph Doble cannot find a way on through, as meanwhile he's got Wayne Douglas just behind him as they head on to the brakes, going into turn number 10. We've got a car going backwards there, that's Matthew Sheraton, who's been collected by somebody we believe, and there's contact between Matthew Addy and Sheraton. I think Addy there not knowing which way to go and squirming his way under braking into the back of Sheraton's car, so Sheraton will be grateful for the fact he's been given a little bit of push along, but he won't be grateful for the aero damage that comes with it, and the fact that he had the incident in the first place was they made the way under braking. Ian Manners here, well, he's trying to hold on at first, Matthew Addy behind as they make them out of the corner. In fact, Addy now dropping like a stone as Isaac Doble goes up the inside and makes his way into P10 of the prime class, P27 overall. But as they make the way onto lap number 2 after one lap of racing, we'll look to the front of the field once again. It's John Higgins Jr. who still leads, and Marcello Relis P2, Adam Dillon P3 ahead of William Chadwick P4, followed by Daniel Holmer P5. It's the top 4 Hondas, then broken up by an Audi who's P5, Andrew Pike P6, followed by Kieran Sharp P7, Mikey Doble P8, Gavin Garner P9, and Joe Romy P10 ahead of Josh Millington, best the rest P11. As the Sim Racing Collective are really coming alive here. 3 drives inside the top 10, 1 just outside of it, and as they all make the way on down through turn number 5 now and up towards 6, I think we are going to see a little bit of the field now start to calm down to a degree after what was a very intense opening lap. But as our drives roll the way through, we look back to Linus Broström here, who's trying to make some progress on Marco Benatelli, and we jump on board in fact with the Swede as the Bright Esports try to get very close to the back of Benatelli here, and this is where he wants all the overspeed as they make the way out towards turn number 7. He's going to look to the inside. Benatelli says no you don't. Broström says yes I do, but it's going to be all under braking here. Can Broström get his riders out, brake himself? No he cannot, and as they make the way through the right hander at turn number 7, drama up further up the road. Johnny Hughes has an off at turn number 8 and has dropped down to P4 from the lead of the race. Adam Delmont's now your race leader, but as the racing continues here, we ride on board still with the number 71 car Broström, and you can just see how the change of line that's necessitated by the dirty air of the cars in front, and in particular Benatelli really being caught out by the dirty air going into 8A, but as they come through 10 again, see how Benatelli just cannot get the nose in the Veloster, and now as they make their way towards 11, Brushdrum will be close, but he won't be close enough to try and force the move, as we end up Johnny Jr. into the pit lane due to damage on the car. The same for Chadwick, in fact. So both drivers have had to come on in, and as they do, the racing continues here between our drivers, and charging up they go. This is going to be a real surprise to the books. Chadwick in particular, well, this is going to compromise his ability to try and sweep the championship away from his rivals going into the season finale. And what can he do in races 2 and 3 of the day? How can he recover in the remainder of this race? It'll be a quick repair, but it's not going to be a repair that's going to be wanted. But as they make the way up towards turn number 3A here, we look to our brothers battling, and we can see Andrea Talasco leading prime driver and find himself inside the top 10. He's the only prime inside the top 10. Meanwhile, Wayne Douglas going in very late on the brakes out the inside of Martin Shirley. Well, I think the RD Simsport tried had to leave the door open after seeing a Veloster coming at a massive velocity. But as they make their way towards turn number 6, they about survive it. Albeit, I think for Martin Shirley in particular, he may not be too pleased about that and may want a conversation after the race. But as they make their way through 6 and up towards turn, Douglas seizing and pouncing left, right and centre as he continues to try and make a bit of recovery. Off the road, there's Nick Clibbins. He's currently P2 in the prime class. Jamie Dorey trying to go around the outside of him. I think Clibbins is trying to hold on for a top 15 to pick up some overall championship points, but they make their way through. Contact there between what is Wayne Douglas, I believe Sam Smith, as Clibbins having to take to the escape gravel there in order to try and stay clear. We've got a bumper rolling across the gravel there as well. Not quite sure whose bumper that is. I believe it may be off the car of Sam Smith or Wayne Douglas, one of the two of them, but it's definitely been misplaced. But as they make their way on through and on towards turn number 10. Meanwhile, we do look to Josh Millington, and Millington right now under major pressure with Cameron Carter behind in the battle for P8 Pro, P9 overall. But as they head onto the brakes here, Douglas tries to come in, he can't quite find it, has to wait his turn. Reese Watt meanwhile says, no, I'm going all in on this, and tries to take on Alex Meredith as they make the way on through and gets it done there. Watt gaining the place on Meredith for P19 overall, P6 in the Pro-Am class as well. A nice move there from Reese Watt, the JW Motorsport driver. I have to say, if you're looking at a driver who really embodies the concept of indomitable spirit, this is the man, because he has been kicked, he's been bruised, he's been battered, albeit metaphorically on circuit, we should say. We don't encourage physical contact between drivers in the XTCC, but in the fact that Watt has had an absolutely difficult time over the last 4 rounds, where he's put the car on pole practically every single time right up there, only to have his first race of the day end up in disaster. And well, qualifying wasn't perfect from Watt today, but he is making ground back, and it's great to see here that the Audi driver flying the colours high for the JW Motorsport team. But as he makes his way up towards turn number 6, we say hello there to Jerry Racecar driver in the Twitch chat. Good evening to you, Jerry, and also to Catherine Meredith there in the YouTube chat, who's cheering on Alex Meredith and the Meredith family out in force. As always, it's great to see the family all getting behind the sun. As meanwhile, we look to Linus Brustrom here versus Lee Horn. Horn defending on the inside. It's the battle for P3 in the prime class, 13th overall, well, in fact 15th overall we should say, and Horn right now trying just to get them all to fight one another. And what we mean by that, as we look back from the rear of Lee Horn's car, imagine right now that Brustrom has got Leese, Mikel Leese only 3/10 behind, and I think Horn's trying to back the two Elantra drivers into one another, and in doing so could buy himself a bit of time to break away and gain an advantage. Of course, that requires you to really be able to position the car where essentially you've got to take all the speed out of the car at corners where you know you can defend it well, and Lee Horn right now has got one of perhaps the most daring drivers behind him in the form of Brostrom. But I say that, Leese up the inside there, sees the doors open, he's going to cause the two of them, however, to understeer slightly wide, so they've got to keep each other room. And as they make that, this is the point now that Lee Horn is able to break away and get the gap up to 6/10, as it's still a battle side by side between Brostrom and Leese. They head across the timeline, left-hand kick into one, and it's going to be Brostrom on the inside. Oh my good lord, there's a car pointing the wrong way. It's Josh Millington. Well, he's got it wrong at the water turn and 1. I'm not sure that he was aided in that regard. Unfortunately, we can't take a look back at that. But everyone's been able to avoid the incident thus far. And as our drivers make their way on through, Josh Millington's had to be towed to the bits, we can confirm. As our drivers serpentine their way through 3 and 3A down towards turn number 4, they go on to the brakes, and as they do here, will nobody able to find an advantage, albeit Matthew Cheverton there being passed up the inside by a very rowdy, what is that, I do believe Alex Meredith, going all in on the brakes into turn number 4, and well, sometimes you've got to brake late and just hope it all works out, and for Meredith there, it has worked out, and that's what we refer to when it works out as a calculated offence, but when it doesn't quite work out, then it's referred to as a little bit of a blunder. It is a bit of a subjective one, of course. But as they make the way through Alex Meredith there, I'm sure he'll feel as though he gauged that right as he makes his way up towards turn number 7. On the brakes he goes in number 44, but Cheverton says, I can do it too, and he comes right up the inside down the Honda with the brakes, and as they make them through a bit of contact between the two of them here, we've not really seen these two scrap over the season. They've come close to one another every so often, but we do seem to have two drivers here who've got a little bit of hot blood between them at the moment, and as they make their way through turns 8 and 8A, Alex Meredith coming out on top there after their further battle, but the the 44 driver going to pit deep into 9, and therefore, as he comes on through right now, he's going to be under pressure. As meanwhile, Reese finds his way past Marco Benatelli in front, but as they roar their way up towards the hairpin, you can see Shepperton under pressure from Manners now. Ian Manners on the inside, left ear pitch to JW Motorsport. Honda goes in, it's Honda on Honda action. On the inside, it's Isaac Doble. Isaac Doble getting his nose in there and giving Shepperton a little bit of a tap. Well, Shepperton won't mind that. He will, in fact, be a little bit aggrieved by it as they make their way up towards the time lapse. He'll feel as though that he's now just lost the place to Manners, with Isaac Doble giving him a little bit of love tap on the inside. And indeed, Isaac Doble's got ahead of Shepperton now as they make their way up the hill. And towards the end of the first half of this race, we're on to lap number 6 of 12. Still plenty of frantic racing action up and down the field. And we'll hear Shepperton right now trying to come back at Isaac Doble. And for Isaac Doble, this really is do or die right now in terms of his ability to chase down Mikel Leese in the championship. They're still side by side out 3A. You can see Sam Smith there trying to get involved on the outside for the iRacing Esports outfit. Will be as a pro driver versus the two primes. It's his only overall position he's concerned with, and he's got a long way to go to get overall points. He needs P15 or higher, but as they make their way on through, meanwhile Shepperton and Doble battling for P9 in the prime class. And down through turn number 6 they go. Smith on the inside of Shepperton into long carousel, and well, it will be Smith who gets it done as they make their way on the drag strip up towards turn number 7. But looking from them back up towards the front of the field. Meanwhile, we've got a battle on here for P5 overall between Pike and Mikey Doble, as of course the Sim Racing Collective driver here trying to dig in deep. He's now the leading TSRC machine after the mistake from John Higgins Jr. and also what's happened to other drivers in the team, including Josh Millington at moments ago in the run into turn number 1. But Andrew Pike here under crying pressure as he does have Doble right behind him. Then Andrea Talasco leading prime drivers hanging in there with them. Doble looks up the inside, can't quite find it. Talasco's going to go around the outside. The VRGT Racing team driver from Italy here really now starting to bury his fangs as we jump on board with him. And as he powers his way up towards turn number 1, the one thing the Audi is very good at is acceleration up to top gear. And as they make their way onto lap number 7, second half of the race gets underway. Talasco right there, you can see the drivers all squirming under braking area to pit their braking bites. Talasco once again really getting stuck in, but inside line there, it's going to cost him a bit of exit speed. He's got to be wary of the fact that Wayne Douglas is only 3 tenths behind as they make their way into turn 3 and 3A here. What's it going to be from Talasco now? I think he's just going to place his car safe. Runs a bit wide, however, he's got to keep the car on the black stuff. That's the most fundamental rule of road racing, of course. And well, it sounds obvious at the end of the day, but this circuit is very easy to go wide, and Talasco they're having to catch the car before it's too late. Right in the back of Mikey Doble here, and Andrew Pike only 3.5 tenths ahead. It does seem to be an interesting battle for the final spot of the top 5 overall. Talasco would love to get an overall top 5, his first overall top 5 of the season. Mikey Doble, meanwhile, will want the points simply to try and keep himself ahead in the championship. You see Doble there defending versus Talasco as they head under braking. Well, I think now it's more for Doble to be on the back foot rather than the front foot versus Pike. It's going to give Pike all the breathing room he needs. Wayne Douglas on the inside versus Talasco. Talasco there being given a little bit of an elbow from Douglas as they make the way into 8 and 8A, but Douglas falls back there as they sweep the way on through. Kieran Sharp just behind the pair. Now the Sim Racing Collective driver trying to get involved, and he'll want to try and help out his teammate Pike, Will Sharp, as they make their way in towards turns 9 and 10. And well, Pike and Sharp have raced together in a number of series, whether in separate cars or alternately sharing a car. And I can tell you the bond between the guys at the Sim Racing Collective are the strongest out there when it comes to teammates. It is a family, but as we see that bit of contact from Douglas on the back of Talasco. Talasco right now being knocked about to a degree and finding himself right up against some of the finest in the field as they make their way through turn 12 and onto the next lap as they roll their way through at a canter. Meanwhile, we can see here battling in the prime class. We've got the battle for P6 in the cars between Reese, what is the leading JW Motorsport car there, the blue and red and black machine. The number 32 Audi under pressure from Alex Meredith and Ian Manners. Watt's teammate coming up behind, but they're all trying to find their way past Marco Benatelli. Benatelli really struggling at this point in the race. I think there's some damage to Benatelli's car that may be costing him time, but you see how much of a cork in the bottle it is causing here with the fact we're now Smith and Shepperton catching up to this. Oh, Benatelli gets it wrong. Meredith goes on the inside here as Watt gets a freebie, and as they make it onto the brakes, so does Ian Manners. And well, that was now very bold of Ian Manners to just see the door open and go, don't mind if I do, thank you. But as they make their way through turn number 5 and up towards 6, Benatelli will be absolutely confounded as to what's going on. And meanwhile, Sam Smith now trying to make a move on the outside, but Shepperton cuts out the inside into turn number 6 and gets the move done there as they make the way on out. But as they charge up towards turn number 7, it will be the calm before the storm, and will we see a return move from anybody here into the hairpin? We're about to find out. As Smith trying to look around the outside of Cheverton. It's not an easy move to make on the outside. You have to get your rival out, break themselves. Cheverton on the inside of Benatelli as they close to the second part of the apex as they come on through. Smith there tries to get his nose in versus what is at Cheverton, and Cheverton says, no, you don't. I think there Smith will be thinking his nose was cut off. But as they come out of 8 and into 8A and now to 9, you can see how Cheverton just literally trying to park the car here versus Smith and McCain. The two iRacing esports drivers having a go at one another as well now. I think there's a bit of impatience between them. Meanwhile, further up the road, coming out of turn 11 hairpin, Wayne Douglas here, still trying to make some progress. In fact, he's found his way past Mikey Doble and Kieran Sharp, and now trying to make his way past Andrew Pike for P5. And I think between them here, all four drivers, all eager to make progress. But now it's going to come at the end of the race. That's where it's most important as they make their way through turn number 2. But as they do, well, we jump on board with Kieran Sharp, Sim Racing Collective 23, as the Briton makes his way into turn number 3. And coming on through here with no success pass in the car, the Honda does start to match up versus the 56.1 kilograms in terms of straight lane acceleration of Doble's a land trap. Oh my good lord! Up the inside goes Talasco, and off the road he goes as well. Andrea Talasco leaving it very late in the day, and with that Nick Clibbins goes on through. Clibbins takes the lead in the prime class there with Talasco making a costly error in his want to advance inside the top 10 overall. Clibbins right now, the iRacing esports driver, just picks up the pieces. Talasco is only 2 seconds behind, if that, but it's a costly error, and now could that be the error that takes away Talasco's first win in a long time this season in the prime class? You may remember he was right up there at Silverstone in the season opener. As they make their way on through, Mikel Leese right now, he's side by side with Linus Broström, and Broström and Leese will exchange in paint and also numbers by looks of things as they make their way out of turn number 7 into 8 and 8A they go. Still side by side now, who's going to back out? Will it be Broström? I think it will be, given the fact that Leese had the inside into 8 and that's where you want to be. And now behind, Lee Horn says, well, if you've got no speed, Broström, you're all offline, allow me to go around the outside of you. It's the inside of turn number 10, and that's exactly what Lee Horn does. But Broström sees it coming, cuts it back, and a brilliant bit of defensive work there from Linus Broström to hold on to the position. Albeit Horn's not done yet, but he's going to have to go the long way around as Talasco goes into the pit lane with a problem with the car. So Talasco, well, that's a disaster after leading the prime class for so long, and it is going to be a total bit. They've got a problem with the car, and that means they're going to be starting from the back of the field in race number 2 of the day. But as Horn makes his way up the hill here, Broström keeping it at bay right now. It's thrilling racing between our prime drivers for the final spot on the prime podium. Broström holds on to it, letting Mikel Leese go. Clemens is leading the class, and meanwhile further behind we've got Matthew Addy having a little bit of exchange here versus Isaac Doble. Matthew Cheverton just behind him in the mix as Addy battles for P8 in the class, as held by Isaac Doble right now as they make their way through turn 3 into 3A. Well, the drivers here all getting their heads down and doing everything they can. Addy trying to battle his way in under braking here, but Doble a bit longer on the brakes by comparison and gets it done in terms of defending as they make their way up towards turn number 6. Charging through the right-hander. I don't think Addy's quite done as we jump on board. He's going to look around the outside, but now you're going to see the complexity trying to go around the outside. Isaac Doble can just simply park the car there, knowing he has the right to essentially get on the throttle sooner versus Addy, as Addy with the understeer there and that outside line wider circumference. It means he's got to turn through more distance, where he's able to get the throttle down. And Isaac Doble, he may not be as fast as Addy at this point in the race, but he definitely knows where to put the car, and that's what's making Isaac Doble a prime championship contender as they make the way out to turn number 7. And when you consider that Doble right now is battling versus the defending prime champion who we're riding on board with, he is not being daunted by the occasion as they make their way through turns 8 and 8A and onwards towards 9. But right now this battle is going to calm down to a degree, unless Doble makes a mistake through turn number 10 or Addy gets an absolute blinder of a charge through the right-hander as they come on through and up towards turn number 11. It's a good run from Addy versus Doble, but I don't think he's going to have enough unless he leaves it very late on the brakes here. I think from there you can lick the stamp and send it, but that's going to be a long distance call and a half as they make their way onto the penultimate lap of our first race. As they charge away on through, we have into the pits as well Jamie Dorey. So we've got another driver into the pits. A number of drivers having retirements, but due to the suspension damage, we reckon, in those high curves. Alternatively, something else is up with the cars with a high attrition rate here, and he's still trying to squirm past Isaac Doble, but Doble just defending calm and collected. Meanwhile, we look to the front of the field here, and there's no real shenanigans or fireworks going on for Adam Delman. Next gen race with Douglas Motorsport driver after taking the lead for this race has just really walked off with it. Marcello Rella's P2 has got Daniel Holmer behind, and they're battling for the runner-up spot here. And both drivers, it has been a long time since we've seen them battling for the podium. Marcello Rella's was battling for the podium versus John Higgins Jr. at Silverstone the season opener, and meanwhile Daniel Holmer, it has been some time since we saw him battling for the podium in what, as if my memory serves me correctly, the race of the Canadian Time Motorsports Park back in round number 3, but as he comes down through turns 8 and 8A, number 79 driver here definitely right now feeling as though the game is on. And then further behind was Mikey Doble versus Kieran Sharp in the battle for P6. Doble holds on to the position here, some key points in the championship to just extend his advantage further versus his peers, but with Sharp right there, number 23 driver eager to try and make a little bit more headway before all is said and done as they roll the way through turn number 10 on his debut. He'd love to finish behind teammate Andrew Pike, and there'll be some huge points for the Sim Racing Collective in their chase of Doble Sim Racing for the runner-up spot in the championship, not the championship win in that team championship. But as the white flag heads out, it is now time for the final lap, and it's Adam Delmont who makes his way onto lap 12 of 12 here with a 3.5 second advantage over Marcelo Reles, who has got Daniel Homer for hot company as they make their way on through. Meanwhile, prime class wise, we still have Nick Clemens leading as he makes his way out the hill, and then it's Gavin Gardner who's acting as the spacing tool here versus Mikel Leese, second place in prime right now. Leese is very eager to get on through here. You can see Clemens is only 1.5 seconds away, but I don't think he's going to be given the opportunity to hunt down that win in the class in this first race, with the fact that Gavin Gardner making his car as wide as possible right now for overall points. Understandable as they make their way down through turn number 4 for the final time in our first race of the day, as they charge through Gardner with major pressure from corner to corner. You can see Leese all over the back of him and switching it back there to the inside of turn number 6. Can't quite get it done, but Gardner goes deep. This is what Leese will be looking for as they make the way onto the power. But who's going to have the run here? And it's Gardner who gets the better exit for the Audi's traction really hooking up as they make their way up towards turn number 7. Gardner defending here to the inside as they make the way under, breaking into the elongated hairpin. Leese around the outside, Gardner on the inside. Leese is going to dare to dream, but with all that weight in the car of Gardner right now, he's able to hold that inside line. But Leese, with no weight and tyres that seem to be a bit fresher, goes around the outside. It's too wide here as they come through 8 into 8A, and Mikel Leese gets it done for wins P12 for now. But meanwhile, we have to look from them to your race leader, ladies and gentlemen, for as he makes his way to the timeline. It's going to be a long time since we said this, but the checkered flag waves, and it's Adam Delmont who takes the first win of the day for Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport overall, head of Marcelo Reles P2, Daniel Homer P3, and then Jared Romy will be P4 ahead of Andrew Pike, who shortly comes on through ahead of Mikey Doble to complete the top 5. Kieran Sharp will be P7 behind on his debut. A great start to his campaign for Kieran Sharp. Wayne Douglas P8, Martin Shelley P9, Joseph Doble P10, and then Nick Clemens takes his first win of the season for iRacing Esports in the Prime class there, P11 in number 13 Audi ahead of Mikel Leese P12, Lee Horn P13, Reese Watt P14, Liz Bush on P15, Gavin Gardner P16 in the end. Alex Meredith comes on through P17 ahead of Ian Maz, Marco Benetton, Alan McCain, and even more drivers to finish their race still, including Jonathan Collins, who comes home P27 there ahead of Paolo Maniti, with Sam Smith P29. As he makes his way into the final major corner of the turn 11 hairpin. As he comes on out here, it's been a difficult one for the iRacing Esports driver. Really has felt the effects of being knocked around here at Sonoma, but he comes across the line there. P29 now, he's got it all to do from towards the back of the grid in race number 2, and the same can be said for Jamie Dorey after that unfortunate late pit stop for damage on the car, but he will finish P30. Ahead of our final lead lap finisher, Paul Scott P31, as both of the Next Gen Racing drivers there cross the line, and as they do, well, they've got a lot of questions to try and work out going into the next race of the day. But that is our first race, ladies and gentlemen, an absolute thrill, I think you all agree. But as Adam Delmont makes his way down towards pit row, it definitely is the number 77 driver, a moment to be proud of in the fact he's been able to bring home another win, and with that, definitely right now keep his hopes of finishing the top 5 of the overall championship alive as he comes into the pit lane. But meanwhile for Nick Clemens, well, I think it's going to be a little bit of an emotional one there down the iRacing Esports garage. It has been some time since we've seen the number 13 to fly the flag high, and well, for the iRacing Esports Audi driver, it's a win that's going to feel like one well deserved, where he simply just didn't put a foot wrong, stayed out of trouble, and got everything right in the race. But as they make their way into the pit lane, let's take you through those race results subject to any assurance inquiries, and here they are. So after our first race of the day then, 12 laps of Fast and Furious action in the NXTGEN Season 3 round number 9 here in the state of California in the US of A at Sonoma Raceway, sponsored by Douglas Motorsport. Adam Delmont taking up the win there for Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport by 3.8 seconds over VRGT Racing Team's Marcelo Reles. Daniel Homer completed our overall podium there for Bright Esports, a further 10th and a half behind. And well, 3 names that we've not seen on the podium for quite some time. Great to see Delmont, Reles and Homer all up there, with Andrea Romy at P5 P4 there for GRT Esport ahead of Andrew Pike P5 for the Sim Racing Collective. Mikey Doble P6 for Double Sim Racing. That means he moves a little bit further towards his goal of taking the overall championship crown and defending it. But on top of that as well, he's moved a bit further forward compared to the P11 start in race number 1, with Kieran Sharp P7 there for the Sim Racing Collective on his debut, finishing 7/10 clear of Wayne Douglas P8. The next gen racer of Douglas Motorsport getting his elbows out in fury and doing his utmost to push on through and pushing through to P number 8. Martin Shirley at P9 there for RD Sim Sport in what was a relatively quiet race after a good start. Head of Joseph Doble P10 for Double Sim Racing, and then Nick Clemens, the leading prime driver there, best the rest P11, but winner in class for iRacing Esports. Head of Mikel Leese P12 and Lee Horn P13. Congratulations to all three of them for their prime podiums in race number 1. The next gen racing the yellow outfit taking P2, P3 in class, we should say. So they'll be absolutely pleased. Some major points on the board for them in the overall team's championship. And then Reese Watt P40 for JW Motorsport, ahead of Linus Broadstrom at P15 there, and Watt making his way all the way out to P14 in the end, sneaking his way on through it, and that'll bode very well for our next race. Gavin Garner P16 ahead of Alex Meredith, with Ian Manners P18 there, the JW Motorsport driver, not quite able to make as much progress as Reese Watt, but still getting stuck in and enjoying the battling, with Marco Benatelli and Alan McCain completing your top 20, and then at P21, Isaac Doble, the Double Sim Racing driver there, losing some major points versus Mikel Leese, and this is really going to be felt now if he's not able to recover it in races 2 and 3 going into the season finale, with Matthew Addy P22 there ahead of Matthew Cheverton, with William Chadwick and John Higgins Jr. completing your top 25, with both Chadwick and Higgins Jr. having to come into the pits early after picking up damage as we understand it, and with that therefore losing out on some major results. Both drivers at some point in this race leading, of course, particularly Higgins Jr. with that brilliant move into turn number 2, but still plenty more races to come. Mark Sykes P26 had a Jonathan Collins with Palamaniti P28, and as we look to the rest of the field, Sam Smith and Jamie Dorey completing your top 30, with Paul Scott your last lead lap finisher P31. Then finishing a lap down, JW Motorsports, Luke Jones ahead of Andrea Talasco finished 4 laps down with that unfortunate retirement after going off the circuit due to suspension damage on the car. And then Josh Millington and Costa Continentino finishing your standings there, 8 laps down and 12 laps down, and both drivers will be classified as did not finish, given the fact they did not complete half the race distance. That was race number 1 of 3, ladies and gentlemen. We've still got plenty more racing to come here at Sonoma Raceway, and we'll be back in approximately 5 to 10 minutes for the build-up to race number 2. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back and ready to go racing once again here at the Sonoma Raceway at Sears Point in California in the US of A in the NXTGEN Season 3 as brought to you by Douglas Motorsport. But as we get ready to go racing, it is absolutely tight and tense here in the US of A for the simple reason race number 1 led to a few surprises, and perhaps the biggest one of them all, this man returned to the top step of the prime podium. Nick Clemens for iRacing Esports, after a brilliant bit of driving, we saw him avoid any potential mistakes. When Andrea Talasco went off the road, Clemens was there to immediately capitalise and run away with the win. But as he gets ready to go racing once again, he'll be buoyant with the fact he's able to take one win away from today. And well, drivers will be lined up where they finished in race number 1. But the question will be, can Clemens make it 2 out of 2, given the fact he will have Mikel Leese and company not too far behind, given the fact they did make quite a bit of progress over the course of the first race. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Adam Delwin, your overall winner in the next gen race, the Douglas Motorsport driver. It'll be on his mind to try and make it 2 wins out of 2, but he's going to have close competition, and we did see quite a bit of progression from some drivers through the field, including the likes of Andrew Pike, the Sim Racing Collective driver, who fought hard for a top 5 finish, and also got to see just behind him Mikey Doble P6. But other drivers who didn't have much luck by comparison, there was a bit of bad luck for, what was it, Luke Jones in particular. The JW Motorsport driver seems to have a lot of pace available to him, and also quite a bit of nuance under braking, but the 211 machine just not quite able to make the progress that Reese White, his teammate, was able to. But I'd imagine Jones will feel as though he can go for braking race number 2 as they settled in, got himself into a rhythm, and is going to go all in once again. But correctly put there by John Meredith in the YouTube chat, it's the Jewel in the Desert. Good racing, guys. Indeed, absolutely brilliant 12 laps of racing in race number 1. And I suspect we've got plenty more to come in race number 2. But we are only a moment away, in fact a minute away from going up racing once again. We should point out we won't be able to walk you down through the grid for race number 2 due to some technical limitations in the fact that we do not have a qualifying session before it in our replay file. So therefore, what we are going to do is simply take a look at the grid and get ready to go and talk a little bit about where some of our drivers are positioned on the grid based on understanding of the results of race number 1. And therefore, we won't quite have the grid walk, but we will have a good view of all the drivers getting ready to go racing. And well, speaking of the weather here today, I'll just show you that on the right hand side of the screen at the moment. It is quite a warm 40 degrees centigrade on the track, an ambient 26 degrees centigrade. You can imagine it absolutely scorching hot, and I do believe in race number 1, track temperature at one point got up to 48 degrees. Well, to put that in perspective, when you start getting above 40 degrees centigrade, the tyres and cars really start to shed their load in terms of their gravitas to be able to grip up, and well, the Elantra drivers in particular are the ones who struggle the most with that front tyre wear degradation. And well, Jones right now one of many, and perhaps that's what it was for Jones, just not being able to accommodate that tyre wear as much as some of the other machines. Well, either way, we're about to see how the temperatures play out once again. It's time for race number 2. As our drivers begin to make their way on to the grid, we do look to the blimp camera here, an absolutely packed grid full of cars, albeit slightly obscured at the moment by the extended pit lane complex. But as we do look a little bit closer to our pictures, we can see there in particular John Higgins Jr. starting much further down the order this time compared to his relative starting position in race number 1 of the day. An unfortunate instance, seeing him have to come into the pit and cost him very dear. But meanwhile, as all drivers make their way towards the front of the field, where it is Adam Delwin who starts on pole there, and we have behind him, I do believe that is Marcello Reales, albeit livery not loaded in there for Reales, and it will be Daniel Holmer who starts P3 ahead of the machine of what I do believe is there. Oh, excuse me, we'll have to get that confirmed. We do have a couple of drivers' liveries that have not loaded in correctly at the moment, and well, it is going to be a bit of patience game here as our drivers all get set and ready to go. But as we look to Daniel Holmer there, he's absolutely raring, and well, he'll be looking to make some ground, but it's time for the lights. Lights out and away we go for our second race of the day. Adam Delwin gets a good launch off the line, and meanwhile Reles falling back behind as they make their way up the hill for returns 1 and 2, but heading in towards 2. Now you can see where Reles has lost out. Andrea Romy gaining ground there as the GRT Esports drive makes their way onto the race through the right hand sweep. They go, car off at the distance. Nick Clemens, who's been turned onto the gravel, and as they make their way to the brakes over the next corner, Avery now going too wide in the run. We've got a car pointing the wrong way there, and I believe we also had, I think Matthew Addy's been collected supported by the wayward car Marco Benatelli. Well, it's a disastrous start for many, but as they all make the way up the hill and into turn number 4, now downhill they go. Well, it's been downhill for some in terms of aspirations. Ian Manners there being tapped by the side of Chadwick's car as Chadwick comes on through the right hander they go, and as they do now, trying to get the car set, and Chadwick bouncing over what is now, I do believe, the gravel, and off the road Chadwick goes, and that's a disaster for the 192 driver. To compound what happened in race number 1, well, I believe that will be a tow to the pits there for Chadwick as he tries to get himself back up to speed, but meanwhile he's had to be towed now, and Benatelli the same as our drivers all come down towards turn number 7 as they go on to the brace. We can confirm that Chadwick has recovered the car, he's not been towed, but it has definitely been a frightful start for many, and was the biggest lose Matthew Addy, and also on top of that we saw Will Chadwick only moments ago. Saw the bigger gain as Alex Meredith up to P18 and trying to make progress versus Ian Manners. Also further up the road with Nick Clemens being sent astray through turn number 2. It's now Lee Horn who leads to the Pram class come the end of the first lap of the day. But as they roar the way on around here, we do look towards our race leaders, and here they are as they come towards the end of lap number 1 and make the way on to lap number 2. So after one lap of racing, it's Adam Doble who leads, and Daniel Holmer P2, Andrea Romy P3, Marcello Reynolds P4, Andrew Pike P5, who's chasing after the top 4 at the moment, is breaking away from Mikey Doble P6. Doble ahead of Wayne Douglas, who's P2, and Kieran Sharp P8. But then we have Joseph Doble P9, Lee Horner completes the top 10. And as they break the way into the right hand of turn number 2, he's leading in the Pram class there, and also the final top 10 overall position car with Mikel Leese at P11. But as they make the way up the hill towards turns 3 and 3A, I would imagine we are going to see a bit more in exchange between some of these drivers as they head in towards the right hand of turn number 4. Down they go through the long right, and as they get themselves set here, well, Lee Horn right now trying to make a bit more headway and wants to get away from this man, Mikel Leese, the danger man, who wants the wins in class, if not the podiums at the minimum, in order to be able to give himself the opportunity to really just have the championship in the bag in the Pram class going into the season finale once those drop scores are applied. But the next-gen racer yellow driver will know he's up against a challenging opponent in the former fellow next-gen racer yellow driver Lee Horn, and Horn is not just going to bend over and give up the place as they make their way in towards turn number 7, but as they do, Mikey Doble versus Wayne Douglas on the inside. There goes Kieran Sharp. Sharp really getting his elbows out here, and as they make their way in towards turns 8 and 8A right now, well, I can tell you one thing, if you're looking for a driver who can get his elbows out more than most, it's Wayne Douglas. In fact, we did make a little bit of a mention back at the Circuit in the Americas that sometimes it ends up being a bit more of a fist compared to what is an elbow out there, such as the severity with which he tries to defend positions. But Douglas there defending firm, defending hard and fair versus Kieran Sharp as they make their way up towards turn number 11. Onto the race they go. Meanwhile, Lee Horn gambling his odds here, trying to look for a move on the outside of Joseph Doble. I think Horn needs to pick these moves a little bit better right now for the simple reason he's giving Mikel Leese an opportunity to really gain on him as they make their way up towards another lap. As they charge the way through and on towards turn number 2. Meanwhile, further back, Matthew Addy here behind Jonathan Collins, and after the difficulties with that contact, Marco Benatelli on the opening lap. Right now, the number 1 Veloster is trying to fight its way back into the top 20. He is currently P9 in prime versus Collins is P8, so therefore Addy's not lost too much in terms of prime positions, where quite a few drivers being knocked out. Isaac Doble, another one of the biggest losers at the start of this race, down P32. And he's had a dismal start today, and I do believe for Isaac Doble, effectively still running it out of the circuit, but half a lap down on his contemporaries, and therefore it's going to be a very painful race from this point onwards, and he'll be hoping he can try and gain some more places from retirement to get himself into position for what is essentially an opportunity to reverse grid draw for race number 3. But as our drivers make the way on through into turn number 6 here, and he's still trying to find a way past Collins as they roll the way on through, but Jonathan Collins looking quite comfortable at this point in the race and not really being daunted by the presence of the defending prime champion. As they come out towards turn number 7. Meanwhile, in the foreground here, we have some connectivity issues for Johnny Higgins Jr. with Matthew Shepperton and Alex Meredith right behind. In fact, we jump aboard here with the car of Alex Meredith, the Meredith Motorsport driver, the 44, as he comes on through turn 8 into 8A. Number 44 door number being in reference to Lewis Hamilton, as I do believe I understand it. He makes way into turn number 9, the door number or the car number of Lewis Hamilton, one of the finest British drivers in the modern era of motorsport. And Meredith right now trying to become one of the finest drivers in the modern era of sim racing motorsport, albeit he won't want to do it like that, getting it rolled, coming out of turn number 10 as he makes his way onto the brakes there, and he comes in towards turn number 11. A good catch to be fair, but definitely extended his track limits a little bit too far, and these cars getting unsettled as they slope the way off the curb on the exit of 10 onto the outside grass gravel area. But Meredith getting away with that one, but he'll be using one of his lives up, the proverbial 9 lives of the cat, as he makes his way up towards turn number 2 here. And Matthew Sheraton right now in a bit of space today in order to be able to just keep Meredith at bay, as Meredith goes a bit deep there through turn number 2, and I think that's going to be Josh Millington going around the outside into 3. Well, Millington's going to be bold, he's going to be brave, and he's going to go all for it here into 3. Meredith gives him the space to play with and cuts it back down the exit. Now who's going to be bold on the brakes here? Meredith goes away, and Millington gives him the space as they come through 4 and now on towards 5 and 6. And the problem here is that Millington will have the inside into turn 6. Meredith will try and use the overspeed of the Elantra to get the job done, but you can see there as they break the way to the extended downhill left-hander, just how Millington's able to seize the position back, and that's the advantage down the inside line into 6. You're just able to control the rate of the race there, even if you're up against the droves. Great low head on the braking as they make their way towards turn at number 7. Meanwhile, looking from them a bit further back, Paul Scott here trying to make some headway versus Jonathan Collins, with Matthew Addy recently making the move. And this is for P9 in the Pro-Am class, with P23 overall. You also got Palamaniti following in behind, and Palamaniti having a difficult race number 1, but now the number 72 driver making a bit more progress in race number 2 so far, as he chases down a top 10 finish here in the Pro-Am class. Currently Paul Scott holds on to the final top 10 spot, but as they make their way through 9 into 10, you can see how they're all just line astern at the moment, just sizing one another up. But meanwhile, speed to size each other up here. We've got a battle for the lead of the Pro class between Leese and Horn. It's the battle of the 2 NXTGEN Racing yellow machines. Leese getting the better run out of turn 11, round the outside through 12 and 1. Onto lap 5 they go, and Mikel Leese will have this done as we ride on board the gearbox here, looking back from the 55 driver. You see Linus Brostrom's just behind Lee Horn at the moment, and the top 3 of the Pro class back into the podium's position, being separated by less than a second as Gavin Garner latched his way onto the back of the trio. I think wants them to get out of the way so he can go hunted after Joseph Doble. As they come out of turn number 4, that wish is not going to be granted anytime soon. Keep in mind that Leese, Horn and Brostrom will also be battling for overall championship points. Given it's the top 15 places that gain points, they roll the way down to turn number 6. But Horn, I think, now really starting to worry about what's behind him. Gets a bit wrong on the exit of the corner. You see the understeer creeping in where he accelerated early. He's had to really recover the car, and Horn's going to be under pressure, and it's going to be Brostrom up the inside. I think Brostrom may have this done. The Swede's going to go in for Bright Esports. Going to Horn cut it back. I don't think he can, as the Horn's going to look for it on the second apex of 7. All he finds then in the end is Brostrom's car parked in the defensive position, and Horn all out of sorts. Now loses the place to Gavin Garner as well, and Alan McCann will be the next up to try and swipe it off him as they make their way through turn 8A and on towards 9. Well, as they come down and around and up towards turn number 10. Meanwhile, further back we have Matthew Addy trying to find his way past Ian Manners as they make their way up through the right-hander and in towards turn number 9 now. Nose to tail they go, but as they do, well, Addy here is going to have to really plan this one out for the simple reason. Overtaking at turn number 10. Not normally advised for the simple reason it's normally a place where you go too wide. Instead, you've got to back the speed off considerably as they make the break now. He's going to look around the outside, although he's going to try and set up the run on the cutback on towards the timing line. And as he does, well, we can see Manners there. He covered off the inside exit, thinking the move was going to be coming on a cutback. But then Addy actually playing this really smart. He's going to have the inside for 1. This will give him the run up the hill for 2. And you'll notice as they make the way on through, now Manners has really got to try and get the car nestled into the inside of 2. He does so. But Addy can get the cutback here on 2 if he can mount the curb. But Manners just about gets it stopping time. Ian Manners showing great defensive nuance here as they come into 3. Up the hill they go, and as they do, we ride on board and look back here from the rear of the 52 Honda for JW Motorsport. Addy's still trying to find his way through, but Manners are really making Addy work for this. And I think right now Matthew Addy's throwing everything at him and thought, well, this hasn't worked. What else have I got in the tank? He's going to be a little bit more creative here, as Manners just seems to be very firmly perched in that P7 prime position, P21 overall, and this is preventing Addy from making progress. You can see Paul Scott right now has gained in the last 2 sectors that they've run over the course of the lap. He has gained so far 3/10 of a second. He's continued to gain this Paul Scott as they make the way towards turn number 7. As they come through, meanwhile, William Chadwick trying to make more progress and start from the back of the field, and then that nasty instant between him. Well, I believe the instant really being of his own volition. We didn't quite see what happened to trigger it, but he did make his way onto the off section, coming in towards turn at number 6. The car being bounced around, and thankfully Nobody, including Chadwick, getting hurt by that, but the 192 drive definitely trying to make more progress now as he heads in towards turn number 10. We're coming for a left-hander here. He's found his way past Collins. His next target will be Palomanite, but at least he'll be looking to try and finish inside the top 23 to benefit from the reverse grid draw if a certain number is drawn. But as he comes down into the hairpin here, he's got a lot of prone drivers in front of him, all battling for position. This may be a bridge too far for the Altus Esports driver. But as he comes on through, meanwhile, speaking of drivers, we're trying to hold on to the position. We'll go hunting, and we've got Adam Delman trying to hold on to the lead of this race. Andrea Romy behind, and well, don't be fooled there. Andrea Romy really all over the back of his rival right now in the GRT Esport Audi as we jump aboard here with the number 88 car. And as the Italian tries to size up Delman right now under a lot of pressure. And I wonder whether Delman is just trying to nurse the car in the opening half of the race and therefore taking the pace out of the car to give him the tyre life for the second half. Was they made the way up into turn number 7. That nurse is not going to be of value if Romy can go up the inside here into the hair, but he goes all in for it, does Andrea Romy. Meanwhile, Delman decides to go overly deep, intentionally here to get the cutback run. But Andrea Romy takes the lead of this race, and right now the GRT Esport driver, who we do apologise for his delivery not loaded correctly, as he makes his way through turns 8 and 8A. He now becomes your race leader, and Audi leads. Head of 2 Honda Civics at Delman and Reales, and then it's another Audi of Daniel Homer in P4. And as they come on through and arc towards turn number 10. Well, meanwhile, Daniel Homer right now trying to make more progress there against Reales with Andrew Pike just behind. This has definitely opened up to be a race of quite a bit of contention between drivers and indeed a number of names we have not seen on the top step, or at least a podium of the overall category in some time, and therefore some huge point swings potentially occurring here today for the top 10 of the overall championship, as meanwhile Mikey Doble still on to P6, and I think right now Doble has found the limitations of that success ballast on the car. With 56.1 kilograms is really just causing the pace of that Elantra to not be up there compared to the top 5, and we saw this in race number 1. He just wasn't able to make any more progress after getting into P6, and I think he's having to dig in here, entrench himself and put down a line to say, well, if P6 is all I can get today, the key thing is his championship rivals for the most part are behind him, not in front of him on circuit, and therefore he'll still be gaining ground with only one more round to go after today. As he comes down for turn number 4, Kieran Sharp and Wayne Douglas just behind, Joseph Doble, Alston Hunt, and then Mikel Leese as well. This is a long lollygaggle of cars effectively, all starting to group together as they come down into turn number 6, and we'll have Linus Brustrom just behind Leese at this time, and Lee Hall a bit further back, separated by Gavin Gardner. You can imagine right now that Mikel Leese will be hoping the pros in front of him can get a move on, for the simple reason he's under pressure, and I think Linus Brustrom is starting to save the tyres for the latter half of this race. As meanwhile, Martin Shirley here all over the back of Alan McCain as they come into turn number 7. Through the right hander does the RD Simsport driver go, and as he does, we're right now not able to make progress on McCain, as meanwhile John Higgins Jr. comes out of the hairpin and also still trying to hunt down some more spots as he makes his way towards the end of the lap. But as we do see the top 15 making their way through, we'll look back to Alex Meredith all over the back of Josh Millington as they come up towards turn number 9. As they do, Millington recently passing Meredith on this lap. They're coming into the right hander this time around. It does look as though it's going to be Cheverton who pulls a bit of cork in the ball here for Millington, albeit Meredith not close enough to really capitalise. Cheverton defending here, trying to hold on to P18 versus Millington, and of course every position critical when there's a reverse grid draw upcoming. You want to be as high up the order as possible to make sure you're inside the reverse grid draw. There is of course the gamble that you try and finish within the mid to lower portion of the top 23 in order to be able to try and benefit to be on pole, but the bigger the number in terms of going from 18 up to 23, the less likelihood it's going to appear. That's the natural law of averages, if you will, as they make the way, or probability I should really say, as they make the way out turn number 2. So therefore all the drivers here just trying to make more progress, but Meredith definitely being scuppered here with Millington in return being held up behind Cheverton, as Reese Watt, the Pro-Am JW Motorsport driver in the 32 Audi, also causing a little bit of traffic jam here, and I think Watt just does not seem to have the command of the pace that he had in race number 1 as he makes his way out towards turn number 6. Cheverton on the inside, there's contact between the two of them as Cheverton look for the move. Instead it's going to be Cheverton who goes round but collects it again. In fact, the two are still making contact with one another. Meredith gets caught up as well, and the 3 Pro-Am drivers here all get caught up, and in the end all good it's me, and will Cheverton be turned across the front of Reese Watt's car, and will thought Meredith gets both places there, just stays out of the danger zone, and I wouldn't be surprised if both drivers, i.e. Watt and Sheraton, are called to the stewards room after today's races regarding that one, because that could have worked out a little bit better for the pair of them. Well, we won't be able to get a replay of it, but you can understand Sheraton wanted to go for the move on the inside into 6. Watt turning in at that point, trying to defend the position, and from there, I think both drivers just saw more and more red as they made their way through turn number 6, but Meredith doing very well to avoid getting stuck in that. Meanwhile, as we look down, oh goodness me, and Linus Brustrom, as we're looking to him closing up to the back of Prime leader Mikel Leese. Brustrom makes contact with the inside tyres at turn number 11, and that puts the Bright Esports driver out of contention. That's a drop suspension. That means he's going to have to be towed to the pit. Surely he was going to have to try and drive it to the pit, but I don't think the Bright Esports driver is going to be able to get it home, and with that, that could be his race firmly and truly dashed as he makes it onto the exit road there. But for Linus Brostrom, that is a disaster, as meanwhile Andrea Romy just continues to run away with things at the front of the field. But now for Mikel Leese, well, if he can stay clear of Lee Horn, who is 2 seconds back, if that, right now NXTGEN Racing yellow driver will pick up another win to go to his books, and therefore that means he will effectively now be giving himself quite a significant advantage over Isaac Doble, who's still down in P29, or in prime class terms, that is currently P13 in class, running out there on circuit and trying to get some points on home. But definitely for Isaac Doble, it is going to be a day where it's all about damage limitation at this point, as meanwhile Mikel Leese having an absolute wonderful day at Sonoma Raceway. But as they make their way on through, meanwhile we look to Mikey Doble here, and Will Doble still under pressure with Kieran Sharp and Wayne Douglas as they come on through the sweepers. We ride on board and look back from the rear bumper of the Doble Sim Racing 88 Elantra as they head up towards turn number 10. You can see their Sharp and the bumper firmly in our sights as they make their way up through turn number 10. Wayne Douglas behind us well. You can see that all three drivers trying to position themselves well. Sharp defending it versus Wayne Douglas. Douglas goes in very hot, but Sharp says, well, I'll just be on the inside and I'll give you a little bit of an elbow there in order to reaffirm that. And Wayne Douglas being adventurous with the brakes on the outside into the turn 11 hairpin, but can't quite make it count as they make their way onto the penultimate lap of our second race of the day. As they charged away up the hill for turn 1 and into 2, right now onto the brakes they go. Doble just defends here. Douglas again takes a little bit of sneak to the inside. Can't quite try and slightly move out from underneath Sharp. Instead, Sharp right now just defends it nicely. But definitely we are getting into that contentious battle here. But I think that for Sharp, he's going to be looking more and more in his rear view mirror as they make their way towards the end of this lap and onto the final lap. And Doble will just be trying to force these two to stay close to one another and battle hard as they make their way onwards towards the end of this race, because it does look as though Douglas is very eager to try and take that P7 off of Sharp, albeit here Mikey Doble the target of Sharp's aspirations as they make their way down and around through turn number 6. As they clear the long left-hander and upwards onwards. Meanwhile, we look to Costa Chats Continental running in a bit of a lonely P26, but at the moment he's going to be on course for his best result of the season. Given the number of retirements in the Prime class, this will effectively be his first top 10 in class of the season. So the Biff Hornet and Epic Collective driver doing everything in his power right now just to carry on, keep calm and carry on as the British saying goes. But as we look from him to Ian Manners, the JW Motorsport driver, battling with Matthew Addy for what is their P5 in the Prime class, the final top 5 spot of the class, and with that P20 overall. Manners defending on the inside here as they come through turn number 7. Chadwick's cleared the pair of them up to P19, so the Altus Esports driver is making a lot of headway, and Manners and Addy getting embroiled in this battle and not paying Chadwick any bit of notice here and just focusing more on their battle for points. They come in towards turn number 9. As they make their way on through. A final lap is now underway, and we have a white flag out to signify that. As meanwhile, going on to the final lap, Douglas on the inside. It is contact between Douglas and Sharp. Both of them, oh my good lord! And well, now that is a mess of car parts there as they make their way through turn number 1. Everyone avoiding the instant, but I think Douglas and Sharp, well, there's going to be a little bit of disagreement between the two of them. Our camera angle not really being obliging. It almost looked as though Douglas in the end got caught across the front bumper of Sharp's car, and I think now for Wayne Douglas that'll be a tow to the pit as that car has seen better days. That's going to put him all the way down the order. Kieran Sharp carries on, albeit Joseph Doble has picked up a place as a result of that, and therefore Mikey Doble ahead of Joseph Doble now P6, P7 overall, and it's definitely worked out in their favour for Doble Sim Race. That'll be some huge points to go into their back pocket. As meanwhile we look here to the battle for the lead of the race, and that's Andrea Romy, who's still 5 tenths ahead of Adam Delmont, and Delmont, after making some progress early on, fell behind Romy and has come back at Romy in these late stages. I think Delmont's really saved the tyres on that Honda. I think Andrea Romi's just got enough of an advantage here as they make their way through a couple more corners, coming on through turn number 9 into 9 at Winter to number 10 very shortly. And as they head towards the final major braking zone here, is there any way Delmont can come from that far back? I don't think so from 4 attempts back. If he's going to send it from that far, Romy will see it coming. But as they make their way onto the brakes here, it's been a hard and fast race between these two. But after a strong start from Delmont, Romy had the pace. And as they make their way towards the checker flag, it's going to be Andrea Romy for GRT Esport who takes the win in our second race here at Sonoma Raceway, winning by 5 tenths in the end over Adam Delmont P2. The Marcello is back on the podium again for the RGT Racing Team. P3 ahead of Daniel Holman and Andrew Pike, with Mikey Doble P6 there for Doble Sim Racing, ahead of brother and teammate Joseph Doble. Kieran Sharp P8 and Mikel Leese makes it another win in the prime books for the 55 driver Next Gen Racing Yellow, taking P9 overall. But importantly, his first win of the day here at Sonoma Raceway after a podium in the first race. Lee Horn finishes behind in P11, and it'll be Alex Meredith who finds his way onto the podium in the prime class, P16 overall for Meredith Motorsport. But as our drivers all make the way on through, we look back to the driver in P23 right now of Costa Chats Continentino for the simple reason as most of our drivers have finished this race already. We've had quite a few retirements, but sometimes if you want to get the best possible result you can, you just got to avoid getting into trouble, and that's exactly what this man is going to be doing as he makes his way up towards the final 2 quarters of Biff Hornet and Epic Collective. In fact, he is going to come home P23 overall, but most importantly for him, his best result of the season in class is going to be a P8 in prime. As you can see him flash his lights there, he knows it. The team are going to be happy in the garage, as it's a good news story for the number 28 as he comes to the line, and with that he will be one of our last finishers on the lead lap. We've also got Isaac Doble heading to the timeline shortly for Doble Sim Racing as the 65 driver makes way through. And well, the first race of the day was difficult, the second race of the day has compounded that ever so, and Isaac Doble also not in the reverse grid contention, finishing P24, P9 in the prime class, and knowing now he needs a miracle in race number 3 to really turn things around in that championship fight versus Mikel Leese. And Luke Jones will be our final finisher on the lead lap of the race, and also of the race in general, I do believe. In fact, no, it will be on the lead lap of the race. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen, at P25 there for JW Motorsport and completing our prime top 10. But meanwhile, Andrea Romy makes his way into the pit lane. The GRT Esport driver will be absolutely proud of picking up another win as Adam Delmont P2, and well, meanwhile, Mikel Leese there. That championship crown in the prime class inches ever closer with the runner results, and another solid result for the 55 driver. But as all our drivers make their way into the pit lane, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to take a look back at the race results, subject to any Stewart's inquiries. And after another 12 laps of intense racing here in the state of California, Andrea Romy from GRT Esport taking the win by 5 tenths in the end over Adam Delmont for Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport. A 2.5 second gap to P3, and our final podium finisher in the overall category of Marcello Relis of the RGT Racing Team, making it another podium, consistency being key for the 738 driver. Then Daniel Holman just missing out P4 for Bright Esports. Andrew Pike completed the top 5 of the Sim Racing Collective, 6 seconds clear of Mikey Doble, P6 for Doble Sim Racing, who in the end did everything right to hold on to P6, had a Joseph Doble P7, his brother and teammate, and then Kieran Sharp P8 for the Sim Racing Collective there. Mikel Leese at P9 overall, but more importantly for your pro and winner for race number 2, the Next Gen Racing Yellow driver finishing at what was 6 tenths clear of Gavin Garner, who completed the top 10 for Next Gen Racing Douglas Motorsport, and then Lee Horn P11 there, best of the rest overall, but more importantly runner-up in the prime class for Next Gen Racing Yellow. John Higgins Jr. at P12, a great recovery for the Sim Racing Collective driver after the dismal end to race number 1 for him, ahead of Alan McCain for iRacing Esports and Martin Shirley P14 for RD Simsport. Josh Middleton at P15 ahead of Alex Meredith, your final podium finisher in the prime class of Meredith Motorsport, making it a prime podium of Leese, Horn and Meredith. And then Reese Watt P17 for JW Motorsport, just missing out on that podium, but still he'll take the points given the top 5 finish in the class. And then we had Matthew Addy P18 for Next Gen Racing Yellow, battling hard with Reese Watt all the way through the race, but Watt gaining the upper hand with William Chadwick P19, and then Ian Mans for JW Motorsport completing the top 20, and with that, a good finish there to take P6 in the prime class. Paolo Maniti at P21 ahead of Jamie Dorey, with Costa Chats Continental getting his best result overall and in class of the season, P23 overall at P8 in the prime class with Biff Hornet and Epic Collective, ahead of Isaac Doble and Luke Jones, your final 2 lead lap finishers, and then finishing a lap down there, Wayne Douglas P P26 after that unfortunate incident going on to the final lap. Paul Scott P27 also lap down. Matthew Sheraton 2 laps down there, P28 for Aztec Racing. Then 4 laps down, Linus Brostrom after that contact with the tyre barrier on the inside of turn 11, which knocked him out of contention for the win in the Pram class in this race. Jonathan Collins P30 for NXTGEN Racing Blue, 4 laps in the end retiring. And then Nick Clibbins, P31 for iRacing Esports. He'll be our last classified finisher, given the fact that Mark Sykes, Sam Smith and Marco Benatelli all finished the race multiple laps down and did not complete half the race distance there. Unfortunate for them, but can they try and find a way to salvage things in race number 3 from starting from the back of the field? We'll have to wait and see. But indeed, ladies and gentlemen, that's race 2 of 3, and we're not too far away now for going racing for the final time today in our 3rd and final race. But just before we do that, with regards to the reverse grid draw, we can confirm, whilst we won't be cut into the commentary booth in order to do the draw, given this is a post-round broadcast, the draw was done by the administration team on the day, and the reverse grid for race 3 was a top 18 inverted, meaning that Matthew Addy would be taking pole position for the final race of the day. And, well, we're top 18 inverted. It's going to be a tough task for many to battle the way on through, but we'll have to wait and see how it plays out in practice, and we'll be back in approximately what will be 5 to 10 minutes time, ladies and gentlemen, for the build-up to race number 3. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to our final race of the day here at Sonoma Raceway, race 3 of 3 in round 9 of season 3 of the NXTGEN, sponsored by Douglas Motorsport. And well, in the Californian sunshine, we have had 2 races thus far that have been absolute classics when it comes to touring car class racing. In the fact, we've seen plenty of elbows out action, we've seen bold braking, and we've also seen some nasty incidents for drivers, which have seen many drivers misplaced up and down the field. And with it, some surprise results as a result. But now as we make our way into our final race of the day, one driver I think is going to be absolutely grateful for the fact that it does look as though Lady Luck has shined upon him. Matthew Addy for NXTGEN Racing Yellow will be taking the reverse grid pole position with his 18th place finish in race number 2, being rewarded with the top 18 positions being inverted as a result of the lottery draw in race number 3. And what can he do starting from the number 1 position in number 1 car, and can he bring home a prime win in order to get his championship aspirations? Albeit the defence is looking rather shaky at this point in time, as he is the reigning prime champion. But can he find a way to take a win? They'll get him back into contention for a top 5 finish in the prime championship come the end of the season. Well, as he gets himself comfortably set, other drivers making the way on around at the moment do include Adam Delman, runner-up in our second race of the day, and he'll be keen to try and make it at least another podium, albeit he'll be starting from effectively P17 on the grid, and therefore it is going to be a challenge, because we have seen over the course of the racing today, overtaking here is highly possible, particularly at the hairpins of turns 7 and also 11. But the problem with that is that when you battle hard on the braking, you essentially enable your rivals in front to be able to break away in order to try and take the position away from you another day. And therefore for Delman, he's going to have to pick his overtakes carefully, and also try and be a bit of an opportunist when it comes to seeing battles in front of him and trying to make up multiple places where drivers are squabbling over said places to begin with. As he comes on down and through, down towards turn number 6. We have been in the background resolving the livery issue that we did have with some cars in race number 2, so hopefully the liveries now will all be showing as expected, because we do know that you guys and girls love to see the colours of the cars in full splendour. And as we see Luke Jones making his way up the hill there in turn number 2. Well, for the JW Motorsport driver, another challenging race in race number 2, and therefore now looking to race number 3 to try and make everything work out in tandem, as meanwhile Mikey Doble there making it 2 top 6 finishes, back-to-back P6 in race 1, P6 in race number 2, and well, he'll be starting a bit further down the order for race number 3, but he's already proven he can cut his way into the top 10 from an outside the top 10 start. We saw that in race number 1. The Doble Sim Racing driver would love to go a bit further, but he is making headway based on the results of his rivals, including Andrew Pike and also Jamie Dorey and Adam Delmont, and therefore you imagine the Doble Sim Racing driver will be feeling as though this race is all going his way, and particularly with the threat of Will Chadwick perhaps neutralised, with the first 2 races being races which have not worked out for Chadwick. Doble now really does have 3 rivals to contend with, perhaps rather than, well, in fact 2 rivals to contend with I should say, rather than 3, albeit you do have to keep in mind that Chadwick does not have any drop scores in his name, given the fact he's only participated in half of the season, and therefore Chadwick will be scoring maximum points in the season finale, whereas Doble Company will be scoring points based on drop score and how far they can improve upon it in the season finale, and that will be the concern in their mind. As we do see Doble making his way up towards turn number 11. Checker flag comes out in this final practice session, ladies and gentlemen. It's the warm-up that's complete, and it's now time for our drivers to go racing it one last time today. As our drivers make their way to the grid, whilst we can't walk you formally down the grid, we can see to where some of our drivers are starting to line up, including Wayne Douglas there, as he makes his way into his position with that late incident in the end, cost him very dear after what was a very strong race number 2. But meanwhile, we look to the very front of the field, and there is Matthew Addy. He'll be absolutely pleased with the fact he started up towards the front, and well, can he pull it off from the start-finish line and get the run all the way out towards turn number 2. He'll get himself set and feels like he can get the job done, but as all our drivers get themselves composed and ready to go. Meanwhile, behind you'll have a very eager Alex Meredith there, who'll be feeling as though for him it's all about an opportunity to try and make it a prime win here after a prime podium in race number 2. But between the two of them, we also do have none other than Reese Watt, who will also be in it to win it, and Watt will have a golden opportunity here, not just to win in the prime class, but also to potentially take a top 5 in the overall category, given that a lot of the pros will be having to cut their way through the field. The grid is set, ladies and gentlemen. We await the lights. it's lights out and away we go, and Reese what strolls to launch off the line there. He bogs down and the whole field serpentines its way on through, and as I try to make the way up the hill, it's a different start for the JW Motorsport car, but as they all head up, he does start to get some speed up to the car, but it's not quite enough as they make the way in towards turn number 2 for the first time of asking. Close contention between all drivers at the moment as they roll the way into left-hander at turn number 3. Meredith there battling hard all bit. We have got quite a few pros who've already made the way in amongst the primes, but Matthew Eddy still holding the lead as they make the way down into turn number 4. Through the right hand they go, and behind Mikel Leese there up the inside of Gavin Gardner, albeit I would say that Gardner's really trying to make the move around the outside, and Leese conversely as they come through 5 up towards 6, and we can see that car off the road. That is going to be Joseph Doble, recovers. Andrew Pike doing the same. Cold tyres, and it's all a disaster there. It's Joseph Doble, and I believe Andrew Pike be collecting. Also, is that, I believe, that may be none other than Marcello Reales has been collected. 3 big names in the pro class, and all of them off the road on the run into turn number 6. Well, that's going to be a mistake they won't repeat anytime soon, and a very unfortunate one at that. But meanwhile, we focus here on the primes towards the back end of the field. We see Jonathan Collins fighting with what is Nick Clippers and Paul Scott. Paul Scott and Clippers fighting over the ground behind him, and Collins just trying to keep them at bay as they make their way out of turn number 7 and onwards towards 10. But as they begin to settle down and serpentine the way on in, well, Scott and Clippins have yet to decide who's going to be the lead car or two. It looks like Clippins has now found his way ahead of Paul Scott. Scott's going to be out to sort it out of line as Mark Sykes now tries to look for the move of the next-gen Racing Blue as they come through turn number 9 into 10. On the charge, they go through the right-hander, and well, I think the 666 machine's looking for the move here eagerly as they head down into the brain zone. We can see there Collins versus what is Costa Chats Constantino battling side by side, and it's going to be Collins on the inside as Chats Constantino gets it wrong there under brake, and it goes overly deep. But as they make the way onto the next lap, after one lap of racing, it's Josh Millington who leads this race, making the move on Matthew Addy into turn number 1. Addy P2, still prime leader, ahead of Alan McCain P3, Martin Shirley P4, followed up by Alex Meredith P5, Lee Horn P6, then John Higgins Jr. P7, ahead of Garrett Gardner P8, Kieran Sharp P9, and Reese Watt completes your top 10, and Mikey Doble P11 best of the rest. But as our drivers now make their way through the second lap, things are going to calm down to a degree, although I don't think anyone will feel as though they should become complacent anytime soon. But now we won't have the rough and tumble of lap number 1, which is always the way at any given circuit in the NXTGEN. You're always going to see some sparks fly in lap number 1, and now we'll start to see the more focused and concentrated battles between drivers as they go on to this second lap and onwards, including Lee Horn here, all over the back of Meredith in the battle for P2 in the prime class. As they make the way out of the braking zone, well, Meredith defending over the inside there, switches it back to the inside line before the braking zone. He's allowed one change direction, but no more than that. And as they make their way out to turn number 7, well, Martin Shirley just in front there, P4. And well, this is where the reverse grid really mixes things up. We have pros and primes who wouldn't only be in one another's vicinity, sunny exchanging blows. But for Lee Horn right now, he's got to try and find his way past the Meredith Motorsport machine. Given the fact that Horn will be feeling as though he's in direct contention of battle to be inside the top 5 of the championship come the end of the prime class, and Meredith being one of his main rivals as they make their way out of 10 up towards 11. Get ready to go onto the brakes here, but as they head on in, you can see the Honda's got the better braking potential, but just not close enough to be able to really utilise it in style as they make their way onto another lap. But as they charge them through, meanwhile we've had a bit of an incident further back. I believe we've had a car go around by the looks of things. That's Gavin Garner go very slowly, but meanwhile Mikey Doble in a 2x2 as they head up the hill. Bit of contact there between himself and what looks to be Reese. Watt defending as hard as he can here. Watt does not want to go back because he wants to go forwards. Will stay where he is. Meanwhile, Mikey Doble's got William Chadwick on his 6 as they make the way out of 2 in towards 3. You can see that Andrew and Robbie looking for the Will Chadwick, can't quite find it as they come up the hill through 3 into 3A. But Reese Watt right now definitely digging in, and Mikey Doble being made to try and find a way past the JW Motorsport Audi. And the problem here for Mikey Doble is the fact that whilst I think he feels like he'll have the measure of Reese Watt, if he takes too long about this, Chadwick will just simply try and force him over the inside of him, because we know how brave and bold Chadwick is with regards to move. All of it, Chadwick is a very fair race for Auto C Sports, but he has a lot less weight in that Honda compared to the weight that's being carried in Success Mass in Doble's car. It's a difference of approximately 28 kilograms between them. I think it's 28.5 to be more precise, but as they make the way up, you see Chadwick switching back to the inside there under braking. Doble has to give the space. Chadwick just gets alongside in time, and that's William Chadwick on through and up into another position as me. While lock up there further back, I do believe for Ian Manners running P17, but Chadwick into P10 now. I think Doble just simply let the place go and tuck him behind Chadwick and try to use him to move a little bit further up the order later on in the race. But as they power their way towards the end of lap number 3 of 12, meanwhile, looking from them to further back, Mikel Leese And perhaps a very difficult start here for the next-gen racing yellow driver. Well, he's behind Jones and Isaac Doble as they make their way through turn number 10. We've got a car there, a lot of smoke coming up from it. But I believe somebody may have got it wrong to break it down to turn number 10. Onto the race they all go. Everyone's stacked up behind Gavin Gardner at the moment. It's an absolute medley here, 3 wide on the apex of turn 11. It's Leese on the inside of Isaac Doble. Jones goes overly deep. Isaac Doble follows him. And Mikel Leese, surely he's not going to make a 2-for-1 occur, as he in fact comes through turn number 12, loses a bit of the speed on the outside line, has to lift off to avoid the barrier, but he's committing to this. He's trying to go for it, but Isaac Doble in the end gets just back ahead under breaking into turn number 2. It was bold, it was smart, but in the end Lee's not able to make it work. Luke just gets too close to the back of Leese, has to back off on the grass, and as they make their way down into turn number 3, well, right now it's going to be Isaac Doble who's boxed in by Matthew Sheraton, with Ian Manners leading this long group of 6 Pro-Am cars, all battling for P17 overall, but more importantly for them in class, P5 in class, and Ian Manners right now doing everything he can to be the proverbial cork in the bottle, albeit his teammate Reese, who's P4 next up the road, is the best part of what is 9 places overall up, so therefore I think for Manners it's more about defending as hard as he can, but he goes overly deep, they're down for the carousel. And as he does, the JW Motorsport driver not quite able to hold on, or is he? As Sheraton looks at the move here, in the distant camera shot onto the brakes, they go into turn number 7. Side by side of 2 Honda drives. It's Manners on the left of your picture, Sheraton on the right. The Aztec Racing driver trying to cut back in there, trying to sneak into the second apex, can't quite find it. Meanwhile, Mikel Leese around the outside of Isaac Doble gets the place at turn number 7. At Leese just feeling so much more confident at this point in the race compared to his peers. They make their way through, got a car off there. That's cost the Chance Continental. I think he's had a bit of a brush with the wall, or a bit more than that, as they make the way into it. In fact, that's not Chance Continental. It would have been instead. That is Kieran Sharp who's had a wound to the wall coming through turn number 8. But as the racing charges on here, meanwhile, we can see Isaac Doble still under pressure for Jones. Jones tries to cut it back, can't quite find it. Oh, contact there between Sheraton and Lee. So I think that might have been a bit of netcode contact combated between the two. And well, you can understand why Sheraton is flashing his lights in anger. He is not happy with the fact that he's essentially been pushed aside to be passed. As they make their way across the line onto lap number 5. Meanwhile, plenty of battling happening inside the top 10 as well. Reese in particular right now, still trying to carve his way in amongst the pros in the overall battle, and also trying to make headway towards Lee Horn and Alex Meredith. Johnny English Jr.'s got on through, and William Chadwick still behind. And as they go on to the brakes into turn number 4, I think right now Reese will just have to play the patience game and wait to see how this plays out in practice. As we say hello to Michael Price in the YouTube chat, good to see you, Michael. Doing well, thank you in the content booth here. I don't think my voice is doing too well at the moment, but still, that's what the NXTC is all about. Fantastic racing from start to finish. We see here Reese White having a little bit of moment there, coming through the carousel, through 6, up towards 7 he goes, and Chadwick again trying to probe, he's trying to prod, trying to find a way to get under what skin, and there goes to the move on the inside of the braking, much like Mikey Doble, just using the brakes of the Honda to get the car stopped in time and able to leverage about 20 metres extra distance before the braking zone. But as they make the way on through, you can see the Watt defending well, and Reese Watt right now really stumping the progress of the Autos Esports Honda as they make the way up towards turn number 11. We ride on board here with Chadwick as he heads into the right-hander attempt. And the problem is as well, from the driver's perspective, you make your way into a sweeping right-hander where you can't see the curb, and you need to be able to see it given the fact it's such a tricky corner to nail, and you need to hit that curb to get it right. We see just in front there, that's Meredith under pressure from Johnny English Jr. with Lee Horn trying to back them all together. Lee Horn here playing it very smart in the battle for P2 and the Pro Plus P5 overall. He wants everyone behind him to fight. So Chadwick right now, if he clears Watt, all he's literally going to gain is one place and then find himself right back in the hot seat. Given the fact they're all going to Constantine together. But as they come through turn number 2, Chadwick is still not able to find a way through as they make the way up towards turn number 3. As they make the way down into the braking zone. Meanwhile, plenty of battling further down the field, including Sheraton here, side by side with Luke Jones, and Isaac Doble also defending into 3, albeit as they make the way onto the brakes. It's going to be Sheraton on the inside, but then on the outside of 3A, a bit of a way to try and get Isaac Doble out of position. Doble defends hard here. You can see Jones and Maniti get a little close lock up there for Maniti. Everyone goes overly deep there, everyone reacting to one another on the brakes, and what Isaac Doble I think flashes lights, they're feeling as though he's pushed wide, and as they make their way through, well, Sheraton gains the place. Maniti gets on through. Jones out on the outside here into turn number 6. Can't quite get it done initially. Tries to cut it back, but Isaac Doble just plants the car firmly. But Isaac Doble does lose 2 places. Paolo Maniti gains 2. Sheraton also gains a place in return. And meanwhile, in the foreground of the camera shot, this is Ian Manners versus Mikel Leese. And I think only moments ago, these guys were all backed up together. But now these two are broken away, and it's Manners who's holding off Leese. And Leese is being kept at bay by the JW Motorsport Honda. And this is actually impressive aggressive drive from Ian Manners. He's right now battling with the championship leader, and well, you can imagine that Leese at this point in time is probably feeling as though it's great racing, but he also wants to get the point simply because he's able to essentially extend his championship lead to a point where he'll need Lady Luck to intervene if he's going to lose the championship in the season finale next week. But as he looks around the outside here, Manners defending hard here. Lee's being made to work every inch of this race as they make their way on towards turn number 1. And as they do, Manners stays ahead. But as they come through it, meanwhile, we look back towards the top 5 position of P5 here. And it's Next Gen Racing as Lee Horn who occupies it, albeit he's got a long line of cars behind. As we look to the blimp camera, you'll see that line in the distance. In the fact, that's Horn ahead of Meredith and John Higgins Jr. And then only what is their 8/10 bump, we've got Reese Watt, who's acted as a little bit of a buffer. But meanwhile, Higgins Jr. on the inside there of Meredith can't quite find it. But right now, it really is Horn and Watt who are keeping the rest of the field in this long traffic jam of cars. To be fair, they're racing fairly, they're racing position, they have a right to be there, and it's fascinating to see how this battle is playing out in practice. It does look as though the primes here really are enjoying their defensive prowess versus the rest of the field, who just cannot seem to find a way on through, and the difficulty in overtaking here at Sonoma is really ruined its ugly head. Doble's having to think about switching to Adam Delman here, trying to cut to the inside on the braking, can't do it. Delman sees it's coming and just puts the car in the middle of the road, and as they come out of turn number 7, once again, everyone made to position here as they charge on through. Meanwhile, plenty of battling into turn 7 further back. That's going to be Luke Jones around the outside of Isaac Doble for P19, what is effectively P8 in the prime class, albeit Jones here not able to make the final yardage, or is he, as they come through turn 8 into 8A. It is going to be Isaac Doble's on the inside for AA. That's the pivotal position you want to be in, and in the end, Jones has to back off of Paolo Maniti, just watches on. But as they make the way out towards turn number 10, and meanwhile we do look to Wayne Douglas versus Mikey Doble. It's all kicked off here. We've got a car in the middle of the road. Andrew Romney, I think, has been turned. He's got the car back together. This is going to shake up the order of the cars ever so. And as they make their way through turn number 12, on towards another lap, onto lap 8 they go. Second half of the race firmly underway. Still plenty of battling here to be assaulted as Wayne Douglas in P12 now looks to go past Adam Delman if he can. We've got a car off the road, and that's Alex Meredith in the cross. And what on earth has happened to Alex Meredith? Well, we won't know, given the fact we can't get a replay of it, but what we can tell you is that Meredith has been knocked out of the battle for what was second place in the prime class, and now finds himself P4 in prime class, and right behind him is Mikel Leese, the one guy he would not want to see right behind him, for the simple reason now he's going to be at the head of a long pack of primes who all want to finish inside the top 5 of the class. But meanwhile, as we look to John Higgins Jr. here, made his way down through turn number 6 right now. Lee Horn ahead by 1.3 seconds, and behind it's going to be Reese Watt. And it looks like Higgins Jr. not quite on the pace of Horn at the moment. It's having to look more rearward rather than forwards. And as they make their way into the braking zone here, Reese Watt continuing to just show his nuances with regards to Audi RSV, just knowing where to put the car in the right time, and also the pace is really coming alive from the JW Motorsport driver. We haven't quite seen this in the first 2 races of the day, but now he's really started to make headway when it matters most. They roll their way on through the sweeping section, and meanwhile further back we're hearing that Ian Manners and Matthew Shepton have the code together as Reese Watt straight lines across the run into turn 9 there. Bit of understeer creeping in, and Chadwick now all over the back of him, and I think for Reese Watt the pressure is starting to build, and it may be worth him just letting this place go. He doesn't need to fight it, given the fact he's really got to be focused on the fact right now it's a pro and podium on the line, and it's the last thing he'll want to lose, albeit he's got a lot of pros between him and the next pro and drivers down in P15 and Mikel Leese, so therefore for Reese Watt, he could now start to invest in battling for a top 10 overall finish to get some overall points on the board, but is it really worth it in the long picture? We'll have to wait and see. It's a driver's decision at the end of the day, but the inner spirit animal of the driver always says you want to battle for every position out there, regardless of which class you're fighting against. They make their way towards turns 3 and 3A, but meanwhile we look to Wayne Douglas here all over the back of Mikey Doble, and well, we've seen these two together in race number 2 of the day, and now they're much the same in race number 3 as they break the way down to turn number 4. A bit of contact there to the rear of Doble's car, and Douglas with that little nudge gains the upper hand. I do believe albeit the camera was not too clear where there was contact, where it was Doble making a mistake as they made their way to turn 6. A bit of contact to the rear there of Douglas's car from Adam Delmont as they make their way on around it. Everybody now really starting to build up to fever pitch with regards to getting those elbows out, making contact as well. And as they head in towards turn number 7, we've had confirmation from Alex Meredith in the YouTube chat that with regards to Meredith being off at turn number 2, it was a racing incident between himself and John Higgins Jr., which is very unfortunate between them after a great fight, but still for Alex Meredith, there's still a top 5 on the cards in the prime class as he battles with Mikel Leese in P15. as we ride on board still with the rear of Wayne Douglas's Veloster, the next generation Douglas motorsport driver, really trying to stem the tide of fellow pros behind as he looks to hold to the P9 position and close up to Reese, who is 1.7 seconds up the road, albeit what is making a lot of progress away, and therefore Wayne Douglas right now goes a bit wide, just missing the exit wall there, but that's going to give out to Delbert all the time he needs to send out the inside, and as he does, Douglas cuts it back, Delbert overcooks out the braking, and Wayne Douglas continues to hold on to P9 as they make their way on to lap number 10. But as they charge way through, Andrea Rummy meanwhile all over the back of Mikey Doble as they make their way on to the next lap. And as they do, the GRT eSport driver battling with some success balance of his own, but nothing in the calibre of what Doble's having to carry in the Elantra as they make their way into turn number 2 and 3. You can see there the cornering capabilities of the Elantra just shine a little bit more. Meanwhile, for Andrea Rummy having to avoid hitting the curbs too hard. The Audi quite sensitive over curbs depending on the setup they take to the circuit as they make their way down towards turn number 4 here, all over the back of his rival. But the number 88 driver right now just having to wait behind the other 88 car, albeit differentiated by a leading 0 for Romy as they come through 5 and up towards 6. Down to the brakes here. Robbie take a look to the inside, can't quite find him. Everyone going overly deep here. This could be an opportunity. Delbert's gone very, very deep. Doble gets boxed in. Meanwhile, Wayne Douglas able to break away and as they make the way onwards towards turn number 7. Robbie's going to be made to look around the outside here as they exit from the track strip and up towards the turn 7 hairpin. Doble defending hard. Robbie looks to cut it back, can't quite find it, steps too far. Meanwhile, Jamie Dorey also trying to get into the mix there after some silent racing for Dorey for the majority of today. As they make their way out of 7 and up towards turn number 10, line the stern they go once again. Meanwhile, from them, we do see just behind Gavin Gardner all over the back of his fellow next generation Douglas Motorsport teammate Dorey as they head in towards turn number 10. It's going to be interesting to see how these guys settle in between them as they head towards the final lap. Given the fact it's not long to go, there's plenty of points there, but Mikey Doble having to defend it versus Robbie, but Robbie gets the inside into turn 11, and Jeremy goes on through, gets the car stopped in time and makes the place counting, and Mikey Doble made to drop to P12 there as Andrea Roy takes P11 off of him, but for how long will it be before Doble tries to strike back? Given the double sim racing driver now has to look behind him and see Jamie Dorey, friend off the circuit, but great rival on the circuit, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dorey now starts to get an appetite for trying to make a move late on in the race. Penultimate lap underway, and whilst this is all going on, still in P2, Matthew Addy, your prime leader, looking to try and bring on home an overall podium, and also what has been a very rare win in class in the season for the number 1 driver, the defending prime champion, as he makes his way through turn number 5 onwards towards 6 here. Onto the brakes he goes, and I do believe with the results that have played out so far today, Matthew Addy now is unable to defend his championship crown, but instead he'll just try and go for every result and look towards that season 4 campaign in terms of mounting a new offensive to try and take the crown back. But as he makes his way up to the braking zone for turn at number 7 right now, with Alan McCain right behind him. McCain trying to pick up his best result of the season here. It'd be a P3 overall ahead of Martin Shirley. Well, the RD Supersport driver may have something to say about that as they head up towards turn at number 10. As they roll on through, the key point here being that Shirley close, but not quite close enough to look for a move at the moment. And these sweepers, you don't want to be too close because of the dirty air effect of the car in front. Essentially the draft, if you will, which works brilliantly on straights because it enables you to gain speed. But the car in front is punching a hole in the air, but through the corners it means you lose that front aerodynamic downforce and makes the car harder to turn, and it causes extra understeer. And these touring car racing class machines, known for that understeer by default being front engine front wheel drive, and the more understeer the worse the situation gets. They make the way onto the final lap of the day here of racing at Sonoma Raceway. It is what is up the front, Josh Millington, who leads this race by an advantage of almost 5 seconds out of the Sim Racing Collective, ahead of Matthew Addy, your prime leader, P2 overall, Alan McCain P3, Martin Shirley P4, and then Lee Horde at P5, second place prime driver, almost losing it there on the apex of turn number 2. He's just got to get the car home. I think Horde here pushing hard, and some tiredness is starting to kick in, and tire degradation as well. It's starting to have an impact. He makes his way through turn 3A, downhill into 4 they go. It's going to be Chadwick up the inside here, and Horn will just let this go, surely. Man, there's no need to fight it. Albeit he's going to be on for a season best overall performance so long as he finishes inside the top 10. But as he makes way up towards turn at number 6, he wants to fight for every overall spot. But here, I can tell you right now, I think the guys down the next gen racing Yellow Garage will be rooting him on, but silently also just hoping he brings that P2 home as he makes way up towards turn number 7. But from there, we do have Nick Clemens here, a little bit further back, still battling with Joseph Doble for P19 overall, not for class position. It's the pro head of the prime here, as Clemens, the pro driver, your winner in race number 1 in the prime class. And as he comes down through turn number 6, just trying to make one last overall gain before we're done here today. But for him right now, it's all about finding an advantage versus the Honda, where the Honda's stronger at the break, whereas the Audi's got the speed on the straights. But as they make the way up towards turn number 7, it looks to be no way through at the moment, or not around the outside at least, with Joseph Doble there just defending hard. But meanwhile, we look from them to your race leader, ladies and gentlemen, for as he makes his way out the final corner, it is going to be a win for the Sim Racing Collective at the hands of Josh Millington, who takes the checker flag here in race 3 of 3 of round 9 of the championship as he crosses the line. 5 seconds clear of Matthew Addy. It's a return to the prime top step for Matthew Addy, and with it a second place overall for the NXTGEN Racing yellow driver. Alan McCain rounds off the overall podium ahead of Martin Shirley, with Will Chadwick P5. Lee Horn runner up in the prime class, P6 there in the overall category, ahead of John Higgins Jr. P7, Adam Doble P8, Andrew Roy P9, and Reese Watt makes it P10 overall, and with that P3 in the prime class, a deserved podium for the 32 driver after the difficulties of the last few rounds. Mikey Doble P11, not quite able to get to the top 10. Mikel Leese P15 there, P4 in the prime class, and a good set of results for Mikel Leese, which will put his championship campaign firmly in control of his hands going into the season finale. But as we have more drivers still to finish the race, Marcello Reles crosses the line there, P26, ahead of Kieran Sharp. He's still got a bit of a way to go in this race as he makes his way up towards turn number 11. In fact, through the final major corner here, the Sim Racing Collective driver, and what has been mixed results in his debut, but I get the feeling he's enjoyed it as he comes to the line, P27 in the number 23, and then it will be another 14 seconds before we do see Palamaniti come to the line to complete our finishers on the lead lap of this race. But it's been a tough race for many, and I agree with Reese Watt there. Tough track this one, he says, and this circuit really has proven to be a difficult one for all drivers. Perhaps the toughest set of races of the season, you could argue, given the mixed fortunes for so many drivers. But Palamaniti, our 28th and final lead lap finisher, but as all our drivers make the way on through. For Josh Millington, it's a dominant drive to victory in the final race of the day. The Sim Racing Collective driver getting it run very well as we do run out of the proverbial VHS tape, and there we see Matthew Addy, your pro and winner, making his way into the pit lane. But with regards to the race results then, ladies and gentlemen, let's take you through them subject to any Stewards inquiries. And as we can see, after another 12 laps of intense racing action here in the state of California, to conclude our run of venues in the United States of America as well, with 3 visits to the US of A this season. Josh Millington taking them in for the Sim Racing Collective by 6 seconds at the end of an NXTGEN Racing Yellow's Matthew Addy, and the overall podium being completed by Alan McCain for iRace Esports in what was a relatively quiet drive for Alan McCain, but still the 2-1-2 drive doing well to keep Martin Shirley at bay towards the end of the race. A special mention to Matthew Addy, given the fact he's not just second place overall and thereby runner-up, but also your Pro-Am winner in the it's, oh goodness me, get my words mixed up there. Pro-Am winner in his class, and then we can see Martin Shirley P4 for RD Simsport ahead of William Chadwick, the Altus Esports driver, battling hard through to P5, but not quite able to make it onto the overall podium. Lee Horn doing well to hold on to P6 overall for NXTGEN Racing Yellow, and more importantly for him, second place in the Pro-Am class, with John Higgins Jr. at P7 there in another battling endeavour for the Sim Racing Collective, ahead of Adam Delmont, with Andrew Romy and Reese Watt completing at your top 10 overall. Reese Watt deserves a special mention, third place in the Pro-Am category for the JW Motorsport driver, therefore sealing a Pro-Am podium of Addy, Horn and Watt in what is an absolutely brilliant drive to a podium for Watt, no doubt about it. And then Mikey Doble P11 there for Doble Sim Racing, best of the rest, ahead of the NXTGEN Racing with Douglas Motorsport trio of Jamie Dorey, Gavin Garner and Wayne Douglas. Mikel Leese P15 missing out on a podium in class in the final race of the day, but the Pro-Am Championship leader will know now momentum is certainly with him going to the Hockenheim ring for the season finale in tomorrow's race. And Alex Meredith P16 there for Meredith Motorsport, and a difficult end to the race, battling hard, but a podium was on the cards until that unfortunate incident between himself and Higgins Jr. Matthew Sheraton at P17 for Aztec race, I think feeling a bit aggrieved after being knocked about in this race, ahead of Isaac Doble, and then completing the top 20, Joseph Doble and Nick Clemens, with Luke Jones at P21 for JW Motorsport ahead of teammate Ian Manners, and Paul Scott P23 ahead of NXTGEN Racing Blue teammate Jonathan Collins, with Andrew Pike and Marcello Reles there at P25, P26. Kieran Sharp P27, the Sim Racing Collective driver, had mixed fortunes on his debut, had a Paolo Maniti who completed our runner drivers who finished on the lead lap, the GRT Esport driver P28, and then we can see the other 3 drivers who finished the race, albeit multiple laps down. Daniel Holmer P29 there for Bright Esports, a difficult end to what was brilliant racing today from the Swede, ahead of Mark Sykes, who we classified as a non-finisher as he did not complete half the race distance, P30 for NXTGEN Racing Blue, and the same for Costa Chats Continentino, who finished finished only what was in the end a grand total of 4 laps, therefore classified as 9 laps down and a non-finisher. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our racing for today. And given the fact this is a post-round broadcast, and we do have the season finale tomorrow night, and most of our drivers are currently underway with making their final preparations and practicing for the season finale tomorrow. Therefore, we will not have post-round interviews for this broadcast, but instead it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the Next Gen Racing community, perhaps you're sat there right now thinking that you want to be on the grid for one of our future series or ongoing series. Indeed, we've got Season 4 of the NXTCC coming up later this year. All the details about that and more will be revealed at the end of next week's broadcast. Well, firstly, you can check out our official website, that's nextgenracing.co.uk, to find out more information about our leagues and what we do both on the virtual and real-world circuit, and our website, which will appear on screen very shortly indeed. As we do just wait for it to appear on screen, and there it is. It is the home of clean and fair sim racing for all, and we at Next Gen Racing have been hosting leagues for over 16.5 years on PC and console. And as we continue to go from strength to strength, we'd love to have you on the grid with us. Indeed, if you're perhaps just looking to get into sim racing at the moment and be with a like-minded set of individuals, we're very accommodating at Next Gen Racing, and the more the merrier. But if you don't want to go to our website necessarily, you can of course follow us on Facebook at our official Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. You can find out all similar information there, and also you can get to see some snaps of what we do on the real motorsporting circuit with a good number of our administrators and also our stewards being real life track marshals, if not racing drivers as well. We'd also like to take a moment to thank our sponsors for this series, and that's Douglas Motorsport, the web address douglasmotorsport.com. And we'll tell you a little bit about Douglas Motorsport. They are the leading race team in driver development, which aims to give drivers a path of progression to LMP3 class racing from karts to Ginetta Juniors, then to Ginetta GT4s, alternatively via British Formula 3. And if you'd like to know more about the team who are specialists in British Formula 3 and Ginetta Cup racing, please head to their website, and that web address again is www.douglasmotorsport.com. But now, ladies and gentlemen, attention turns to the season finale, which will be tomorrow evening. Round 10 of 10. All roads have led to this. We make our way to Germany in continental Europe for the run of the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg circuit, and on Tuesday the 27th of June 2023 we will be crowning our overall and Pro-Am champions in the drivers categories and our teams champions for season 3 of the NXTCC. In the Pro-Am class, it looks as though it's all going the way of Mikel Leese, with a tenuous threshold now for Isaac Doble to be able to try and come back in anger. And in the Pro category, it is Mikey Doble who leads the way, the overall category we should say, but it is Mikey Doble who leads the way and seems to have advantage going his way. Meanwhile, in the Teams Championship, it's all to play for between Next Gen Racing, Douglas Motorsport, Double Sim Racing, and the Sim Racing Collective. Therefore, we have 3 championships still outstanding, and we'd love to have you tune in with us as we see it all come to a close. Save the date and save the time. We'll be back tomorrow evening. But until then, we have been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX1 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.